All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. This city council meeting for the city of Holiday Islands, our regular meeting of March 15th, 2022. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Councilmember Dumas.
Here.
Councilmember Elwood.
Here.
Councilmember Graves.
Here.
Councilmember Mills.
Here.
Councilmember Brendan.
Here.
All present, Mr. Mayor.
And I declare a quorum. On the agenda, I apologize for this agenda being a work in process right up until this afternoon, but I have a couple of changes that we need to make. First of all, the first thing on the agenda under new business, reviewing the interlocal agreement with the sheriff. We're still not done finalizing that yet, so I scratched it from the agenda. The resolution that I had on here as 2022-003 for the helicopter in Veterans Park, I'm scratching that. Brad Handley had asked me if the city council would consider a resolution where we would accept responsibility for maintenance of the helicopter in what used to be Veterans Park, or maybe still is Veterans Park up there. And because the government still owns the helicopter, it was assigned to the VFW. The VFW was folded, so now they need another governmental entity or official body or something like that to take responsibility for the helicopter, or I guess the Army takes it back again. But at any rate, Brad didn't get the resolution prepared in time for tonight's meeting, so we'll take that up at some future meeting. So resolution for the sheriff's substation in the park is going to be 2022-003. The resolution authorizing the next application for a state aid to streets grant is going to be 2022-004, and I gave all the council members copies of those. I would make one more suggestion, and that's that we move reviewing the contract and rate proposal for the Carroll County Solid Waste Services and Ordinance 2022-004 up to the top of the agenda, so that Mayor McKinney doesn't have to stay here for the whole meeting, because that's why he's here. So with those changes, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the amended agenda. Second.
Ken Mills made the motion, Lynn made the second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the revised agenda is approved. We have minutes that Wes distributed from the February 15th meeting. Any questions on the minutes?
I had one change. One of the first items I saw there, I don't have it in front of me, but it said broadcast instead of broadband.
Where was
That
that?
was like the second item discussed or something.
Yeah, under standing committees, number 2
There you go.
should be broadband.
Broadband. Okay. That can be changed. I'll also comment, I had changed, I think, 3 words on the page 3, towards the end of resolution 2022-003 for the sheriff contract. after, when you go to the top of the next page, I believe, where it says Mayor Keys and the sheriff are to meet, I changed that to was suggested, because that sentence didn't read right. So it now reads, a meeting between District Manager Presley, Mayor Keys, and the sheriff was suggested.
Okay. So with those two corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move we approve as amended.
Second.
Linda made the motion to approve the minutes as amended. Jerry seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved with changes. Going on to ceremonials, recognitions, proclamations, or in memoriam. Any announcements or proclamations? Hearing none, we'll move on to reports of standing committees, economic development. Jerry?
A couple of things to report. Got a call from Rodney Balance, who's been working with us on a broadband grant, saying that some good news on the $16.7 million North Carroll County grant to install fiber in underserved areas, and they expect that, according to Representative Rowe, who talked to the state director, that they expect that approval come sometime in the summer, and Rodney expects to lay fiber optics in northern Carroll County, including Holiday Island, sometime in the fall.
Okay.
We'd be
Then the other,
covered by that?
huh?
We'd be covered by that too?
According to Rodney, yes. That was the second. The first grant, the I can't remember what his name is, the $2.1 million internet consultant that they hired has recommended that they table the smaller grant to do the feasibility study, and that would be included in this new grant. So that's what he reports. And the other thing on economic development, and where'd you go? Jerry, do you mind if I report what we talked about, your liquor license?
No, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, well, one of the things that my farmhouse and cafe requested to boost their bottom line was for us to approve a liquor by the drink ordinance, which we did, and they've been working diligently on their application, and that has been approved, and he's in the period now where he's got to run a legal notice in the local paper, and then what's the date?
That was completed as of today. We got our affidavit for it, and we sent all of that to ABC as of today. The problem is that paperwork had to been in by last Friday. We missed it 3 days, or it has to go for another month. It's all been approved and done, except for they have their meeting on one Thursday or whatever it is per month. So it'll be the third Thursday of April when we get everything done. Unless we just happen to get lucky and they go ahead and put it on the agenda for us. But everything else has been completed, so that should open the door on that to get us moving forward.
Very good. And then along those lines, it's not covered by that ordinance, is that the hot box pizza contacted the mayor, and the ABC contacted the mayor to alert us that hot box pizza has filed for a beer and wine license.
Okay. I assume that at some point Rodney's going to come to us with a plan of how he's going to roll this out. And
Okay, yeah, I'll ask you about when that would be appropriate.
Because the first thing people are gonna ask is, when can I get hooked up?
I mean, Mayor McKinney may be ahead of the curve on that.
Especially if they've got problems.
We're trying to get.
They did, Berryville did get its first grant approved.
Mhm. Okay. Planning Commission,
Planning Commission last met on February 15th. We passed a resolution that recommended about 40 pages of zoning regulations to the city council. We did not meet in March because it's not well advised to proceed on more zoning regulations until the city attorney has adopted those 40 pages, the council's adopted them as well. So we're kind of on hold for what we might be doing in the Planning Commission.
yeah, I need to get with Dustin and see where that is on his to-do list. His to-do list seems to be pretty long. Okay, and then you have some edits and things that you're gonna
I thought we would
discuss
try-
under.
I thought we did that in the discussion.
Okay. All right, financials. Wes distributed the financials for February.
Yes,
Any questions on the financials? Any comments, Wes?
none in particular, I guess, I'll just comment in the street fund, we did receive, I think it was $67,000. Property taxes, our share from last year, 69,000. 69,124.98. So that was received in February. We had paid the $250,000 to the state DOT for next year's construction. And we had held back on the balance of $57,000 because we didn't have money in the account at that time. The $69,000 check was delivered to us after I was gone on vacation. So that was, I sent that, I think, on March 8th, for the balance of our share of this year's construction. I sent that to the DOT, and I checked this morning, the check had not cleared yet. But on the other hand, the first check, which was sent probably the 16th of February, didn't clear until in March. So I'm not surprised that the 57 hasn't cleared yet.
State doesn't have the same cash flow pressures that cities do.
So, other than that, we ended the month with a total of $144,834 in the bank. And of course, that included that money from the Carroll County, but the $57,000 for balance on this year's construction had not been paid out yet, so that came out in March.
Okay. Have you seen deposits from the county for January, February, March of this year yet?
No. The only thing I've seen is the check that they brought to you.
It's the middle of the month, so you may want to make a courtesy call to the collector and see, because I think they distribute that money early in the month normally.
Now, after this got straightened out, either the treasurer or the collector emailed that it was set up and we would receive our first check in April.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
So,
But was the $69,000 we received for just the months in last year?
Yes,
So what happened to January and February?
that's what we're waiting to see.
You
This,
think the April check will include it?
that's what we're anticipating. We'll see. Just for your information, it took us a whole year and a threat of a lawsuit to get our share of the 3 mil county road tax. So, we finally got it, last month. Okay. So, any other questions, comments on the financials? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion that we accept the financial statements.
I'll move that we accept the financial statements for February.
Been made the motion, do I have a second?
Go ahead.
Ken seconded it, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Then, let's see, we can move on to, old business, there is none. New business, we moved the discussion on solid waste up to the top of the agenda, so the first thing we're going to do is talk about the, contract that Carroll County Solid Waste has, the draft contract or proposed contract. It's not signed or anything yet, so it's just a proposal at this time. And Mayor McKinney, I'd like to introduce our honored guest here. Mayor McKinney is not only the mayor of Berryville, but he's the president of the Carroll County Solid Waste Board of Directors, the president of the Arkansas Municipal League, best liked dad in Berryville. But Tim's here to answer any questions that we might have. So Tim, you wanna just give everybody a little bit of a background on how is Carroll County Solid Waste?
I don't mind, I'm gonna stand up or I'll start hitting myself with my hands. I get to talking with my hands sometimes, but, thank you all for having me over and, congratulations for being a city. I can't imagine the daunting task of trying to go from ground zero, but from what I've seen from a distance and heard through the municipal league, you all are doing a good job over here and doing it right. So glad to have, just don't get bigger than Maryland now, you can't give that.
We got a special sale on it.
The Carroll County Solid Waste, just kind of give you a little history of it. It was formed back in the early 90s whenever the state passed a bunch of legislation trying to improve our recycling rates and address our landfill issue shortage. And they set up all these solid waste districts around the state. And originally Carroll County was in a 9-county district that went from Mountain Home to Benton County. But over the years, they've all changed and everything, and now Carroll County is its own solid waste district. It's the smallest one in the state. We actually had to get legislation passed to be able to form our own district. But the reason we did is if you call down ADEQ and ask them, what should a solid waste district look like, they look at Carroll County. It's been going for a long time. It was actually started out with Roger Minor as our director, and then Phil Jackson. So most of y'all know Phil with he ran it for years, but it's been a good success. We have all of our equipment paid for. We have competitive rates. I know we went through what you all are going through in Berryville when we passed the solid waste ordinance, and it's contentious. It is. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's what we looked at in Berryville is our streets. I'll give you all the hint, in the years to come, you're gonna find the streets are the most expensive thing to try to maintain with the least money to do it. But, you don't have 2 or 3 different trash trucks running all over your town every week. Everybody's got trash, just like everybody needs water service, sewer service, police protection, planning and zoning, things that we all have to live by when we're in a large group. And what it's done for us is, Carroll County Solid Waste, we do not make money. We try to invest all our money back into our equipment, our manpower. And if we have any debt, it's just for a short-term lease on a truck or something like that. So we're able to keep our rates very competitive. And our 3 main things is to provide quality service at a reasonable price and promote recycling. When you recycle with Carroll County, it gets recycled. It doesn't go to a landfill. And I can assure you, a lot of places in the state that aren't that way. So, you know, whatever decision you all make on this ordinance, you know, it's your decision. I'm certainly not here to tell you how to do your business, but I can tell you, I've been the mayor for 32 years. I was there when the Carroll County Solid Waste District was formed, and I've seen it go through all the things. And I can tell you, it's a quality organization, and it's just to serve the people. We don't have stockholders, we don't have owners. It just serves Carroll County. And it'll serve your city best, whether it's Carroll County or whoever, to have one solid waste hauler. You got the trucks in town on the same day. You got one big trash truck going up and down the street instead of the other, and everybody can get rid of the trash. If you live in a house, if you get mail, if you eat, you got trash. You gotta have trash service. And one thing about this is, if you've got a complaint, this is George. He's our operations, our manager. He took Phil's place when he retired, and he can probably ask more questions about the actual operation of our business than I can. But if George can't fix your problem, it's not like that's the end of the road. Paula Allen has 2 members on the Carroll County Solid Waste Board. It's kind of, you're the only one with 2 members. It's kind of a fluke. We had an at-large member, then we adopted Dan whenever he became mayor. And so, if you don't get the quality of service you want from Carroll County Solid Waste, you try George. If George don't fix you up, you call Dan. Dan don't fix you up, you call me. That's our goal. We want to provide a quality service for our citizens in this county and do it in a way that helps everybody. You know, I can assure you that whenever we started this, I had a lot of people, probably one of the biggest crowds we had at City Hall for a while. But I can tell you, people that opposed it in the start have come back to me and said, you know, right, this doesn't make sense. You know, we get our water bill, our trash bills on it, we write one check and it's all done. Or we don't have to listen to 2 or 3 trash trucks coming down the road every week. So, you know, I applaud you for your efforts, and I hope you all continue forward with this and get a contract with Carroll County Solid Waste. I can assure you we'll provide quality service. And I'll answer any questions, and Julie's here also.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
When we get into, I'm sure there's gonna be some questions when we get into the actual review of the contract here, so.
Would you like me to stay for a while?
Yeah, why don't you stay until we at least get through this part. Otherwise, George would be here by himself.
George's tougher than I am.
He took.
All right, well, first of all, I guess I can add 1 or 2 comments to what Tim said. You know, I agree with everything he said. You know, the trash trucks, multiple trucks running up and down the road, and double axle trucks being a particular problem with scuffing the roads when they have to make tight turns, is one of our reasons for wanting to have one trash service. From Holiday Island's perspective, though, we also have to be aware of the fact that the city is ultimately responsible for meeting all of the environmental regulations, whether they be state, national, or federal, or whatever regulations. So we basically own the trash from the time you put it out or the citizens put it out at the end of the driveway until, you know, the end of time. You never relinquish title to that trash. And so we are legally required to make sure that that trash is disposed of properly, and that it is being disposed of, not just, you know, thrown in somebody's backyard or burned in a barrel in somebody's backyard. we don't have the talent, we don't have the resources, we don't have the knowledge nor the experience to be able to follow behind multiple trash haulers and see what they're doing with their trash, making sure that they're disposing of it appropriately and things like that. So, to go with the, you know, the advantage that Carroll County Solid Waste has is that they operate basically, and I'm not gonna use the right terminology, but they operate basically under ADEQ, the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. They're licensed by the state. They exist under the authority of the state, and they are the only certified, George, if I'm using the right terminology, environmental waste or cleanup facility in Carroll County. So if there's, if there is a site that needs to be cleaned up, they're the ones authorized to do that. And if there's a reported problem with the illegal dumping, if somebody calls the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality and reports an illegal dump or something like that in Holiday Island, the call comes to George and he has to investigate and he has to make sure that it gets cleaned up, either by, getting the cooperation of the people, or if they won't cooperate, by citing them and taking legal action. And then, in the final analysis, if it doesn't get cleaned up, they go in and clean it up, and I guess would put a lien against the property for the cost of doing the cleanup. Now, with that said, we would wish that that wouldn't be necessary in Holiday Island, that we're all, environmentally conscious, law-abiding citizens. But I have a list of 12 properties right now that are in bad need of attention, And so it's not a little problem, and it's a growing problem. The less control you have, the more the problem grows. So with that preface, I'll open it up to council member discussion on the agreement.
With the liability the city has with its trash from now until the end of time, does the solid waste district segregate Holiday Island trash from Berryville trash? So if there's a problem in the Berryville corner, it's their problem and not ours?
If there's a landfill issue, like it's got a leak or anything, and that becomes a kind of line side or something like that, they'll go back to the landfill records and say 8% of that trash in that landfill is Berryville's, 42% Springdale's, and it'll be that way. They keep permanent records of how much trash you bring into it.
So all your members participate in the recovery and cleanup costs? All of your customers as a group by percentage?
5%.
Like you said, 8%, 40%, whatever.
That's the way it would come out in court decisions, from what I've heard in the past, but it's the Mayor Keys is right. In environmental lawsuits and issues, maybe it's because they pick whoever they want to, but that trash, if you have a legal dump, whatever it is, whoever's trash is in there, they go by percentage of who they're responsible for.
Okay. Is there such a thing as anything that might have been done before we became a city wouldn't be the city's responsibility?
That would probably be it. You're getting off into legal things now that I don't have very much luck in.
Okay.
I would think that the city cannot be held responsible for things that happened prior to our incorporation. So
maybe.
And if you have like Mayor D, he was talking about big illegal dump here somewhere in town, you found where they're not going to go after Holiday Island. They're going to go after who had that dump. It's not going to be because you never collected that trash. And so, what cities are responsible for mostly is once you collect that trash, is disposing in a responsible manner.
Now, I would put a little exclamation on that, in that, as long as we identified it, or if we never identified it because it was hidden to us that it existed, I think the city would be in the clear. If we identified it and we were trying to deal with it, making a good faith effort to deal with it, I think we would be in the clear. If we're aware of it and we turn a blind eye and we let it exist, I think we're in the soup. So that's why enforcement is necessary. Once it's identified, then I think we are responsible for compliance.
So, if we were to stick with, 4 to 8 carriers, we would be responsible for all 8 of them if they didn't play by the rules.
Now, they have to be, because here again, I'm kind of talking out of school, but since Carroll County is a solid waste district, anybody that wants to haul trash in Carroll County has to be licensed by Carroll County Solid Waste, right? So there's theoretically some control there. However, I'm sure they don't have, unless somebody reports it to them, they don't have the resources either to follow behind all
I was
those
using
people.
that as an example of why a single provider is.
Yeah.
preferred.
Right, this is a problem that Holiday Island's been trying to deal with for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And
But without the force of the city, it's very hard to do it.
the city can't.
Linda, are you done, Ken?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could recount he's got horror stories about it. I don't know.
He's done now.
No, I'm gonna put the timer on him.
Thank you, Pat.
Linda, you had a question on some
Yeah.
wording in the contract?
The question that I sent you beforehand. Yeah, it's kind of puzzling. When I read the proposed contract with Carroll County Solid Waste, and I'm no lawyer, but I've read a lot of contracts, and the first page says it's a contract between the city and Carroll County Solid Waste. But after you go outside of the first page, the other pages talk about the contractor. And the contractor's supposed to do this, and the city's supposed to do that, and what have you. And so all the stipulations in the body of the contract are between the contractor and the city. Yet, it's unclear, it's not defined anywhere who the contractor is. It makes me think, okay, is Carroll County Solid Waste gonna hire a subcontractor that's gonna be driving trucks out here and collecting our trash? And then,
They should.
if that was the case, what liability would be placed on that contractor or Carroll County Solid Waste or the city for failure to perform according to the contract, because they have no signature placed in the contract? A subcontractor would. So in the alternative that perhaps that's not planned and that Carroll County Solid Waste is operating all the trucks and doing all the collection and being responsible for that, it would seem to me like on the first page maybe it should be clear that maybe in that first paragraph that when you say Carroll County Solid Waste and you said in parentheses the district, referred to as a district later on, that you'd also say it's the contractor. It's referred to as the contractor later on.
I'm no attorney, thank goodness, but, I think that you got a good point. I think the Carroll County Solid Waste should probably be identified on the first page as the contractor. And then that would refer to the rest of the contract. Now that's ask a lawyer, don't ask me.
Yeah.
There is, under definitions, there is contractor is listed under definitions, but here again, nowhere in the definition does it say that the contractor is Carroll County Solid Waste, so that
I think
you
one-
could,
one
you
short
could
sentence would
clarify
take
it
care
there
of that.
too.
Yeah.
I do too. So,
That's
can we
a
make
good-
that
that's a good
change
point.
then?
Well, Dan, I have a question. In the contract, I saw nothing about the franchise fee, which is mentioned in the, ordinance. Why would that franchise fee not be, delineated in the contract?
The way we do it is the ordinance sets your rules of how you're gonna operate, and those are permanent. You know, contract can be amended from time to time. But just like the ordinance says, you know, everybody's gotta have service, it establishes that. And so when it's in your ordinance like that, then it doesn't matter who your hauler is, but that's permanent fund for the ordinance.
In fact, there is a paragraph in here, I don't know exactly where, but I remember reading it. It didn't specifically say anything about franchise fee, but it said that the ordinance, the contract, by contract, they will follow our ordinance.
Okay.
So that there's a paragraph in here to that effect.
There's a lot of legalese there. I mean, there's lawyers who spent days on that thing.
I have a comment. On page 3, on the definition of elderly disabled accounts, second sentence says, the basis by the solid waste district for special pricing and services. I dig further into the document and I find on page 16 where it talks about the elderly disabled and low volume accounts, it talks about house side service. It's the only place that house side service word is used. So I think we need to add a definition so it's clear that everyone knows exactly what that means and there's no misunderstandings, as opposed to curbside service.
Okay.
And is that the same thing as low income on the rate sheet?
That's what I gathered.
So, well,
It's
I
just
didn't
called-
actually work
Yeah.
on this
Just called
contract.
low income on the rate sheet, seems to me.
I had a question on that. I think people will be interested in cost, and particularly if they don't have much trash. And I looked at the rate sheet, and there is this special, rate for low income / 115-gallon bag. So I'm wondering, is there an income test?
So I would guess it has to do
define
with
low income?
whatever the American Disabilities Act says, whatever's in that.
Well,
Well, but
it's not necessarily the same
That's
as low
true.
income.
Well, it's in the same title. No, I'm sorry, it's not either. It's low volume accounts.
You know, so I was wondering if there was a special test on income, or is it just strictly based on the 115-gallon bag?
I don't know what's in your ordinance, the way we do ours, if you qualify for the state income tax credit on your electric bill, then you qualify for the low income. So there's a program that exempts sales tax from electric bills for people under a certain income, and that's the guideline we use.
So that would be a test that the Carroll County Solid Waste would apply to the applicant, and they would take care of choosing what fee they should take.
Yours, you're not gonna get out
It
of
wouldn't be
that.
something the city would do.
No, I think that,
How do we come to low volume, low income?
Well, the different cities, like you guys and Green Forest, different cities do different things. The way I do the county, on my low volume income is, I determine that by, elderly, disabled, which is a 115-gallon bag a week. Not meaning we will only pick up that bag, we will pick up more than that, and there will be overages just like there's overuse on everything else, but it's basically then how, this is just, proposal that I wrote up.
Right.
Based on our others.
Yeah, and I've
There's
told
gonna be
everybody
some-
that this
There's
is,
gonna be some
just a
changes,
draft.
and you're gonna wanna do things, and we're gonna wanna do things before we can, until we come to an agreement, and the board, Carroll County Solid Waste Board would then vote on it. But, basically, there's a low volume area, which is, basically elderly people that don't have a large volume of trash. Now, for Holiday Island, there's also how's it worded in there, discontinued or vacation or?
You have, on page 4, you call it the vacation rate,
Okay,
and then on page 13, you call it the minimum basic service for when someone's not there, so they're
yes,
named differently in the document.
okay, well, that rate,
Is that the inactive rate?
that is the inactive fee, yes.
Okay.
If you're on vacation, or if you use this for a vacation home or something like that, that is the inactive fee.
In that case, they would have to notify you when they're using the property, or?
It depends on how the contract, the agreement is set up. If we do the billing, yes, they would notify us. If you guys do the billing through your water meters, they would notify you. So that just, if we do the billing, yes, they would notify us, and we would take care of that.
Well, I mean, we were planning on having the water department send them the customer list
Right.
every month, I suppose.
well,
But
whenever
would
it
they,
needs to be updated.
are we talking about the water has to be shut off during those months? Or
No.
during those times that people are on vacation or gone, or
Oh,
part-timers, or,
no, I wouldn't.
or
think
could
so.
they just notify them that they're
Well,
not?
I mean, he called it minimum charge, so.
I think that should probably be between the homeowner and.
The way our county customers do it is they notify us that, when they're not on the county, they put them on the inactive. They notify us when we come back, and then we take them off of it, whatever they're.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people that are here for
Yes, holiday.
3 or 4 months, and then they're gone for 6 and back again.
How do you handle, managed properties, like condos and things that may have tenants for a week and then go 2 weeks without any?
The Airbnbs?
Airbnb or just,
Oh, just rentals that
Yeah.
change the rental people?
Short-term rentals.
I think
You are
it
gonna be like
More than, okay, someone that would rent out in the summertime and then not be like a closed business in the wintertime, or?
Well, like these condos here are managed by, Damon Hinkey's place over in Eureka, Ozark Mountain Rentals. And
Most condominiums and multi-family dwellings have dumpsters.
Like weekend rentals, I mean, there's a lot of those. People come for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but they're not paying the water bills or anything. They're just,
And a lot of people own these properties out here specifically just to rent them out to weekenders.
yeah, they're never here.
Okay.
But
I think,
that would,
places like that would definitely need trash service, just like everyone, but those people are gonna come in and create trash on the weekends, and if they don't have trash service, what's gonna happen? They're gonna throw it out somewhere. And, that's just having an Airbnb like that, that's just the cost of doing business to have trash service.
Well, we're gonna, let's get our discussions done here first, and we'll open it up to the floor.
I guess that's picky though.
Just, I'm taking notes on all of exceptions to the standard rules here
Well, the rest,
that we may need to consider.
the ordinance,
But one thing we don't wanna do is create a bookkeeping nightmare for Carroll County Solid Waste, where somebody can say, I'm gonna be here next week, so I'm gonna pay for trash, then I'm not gonna be here, the second and third week of April, and then I'll be back for the fourth week of April, and then I'll be gone again for a month, and, no. If they're gonna be gone for an extended period of time, like 3 months or something like that, yes, they can probably discontinue their service, and we'll build some flexibility into the rate structure. But there's gotta be some degree of reasonableness to it.
Yeah, I think there's gotta be some clarification on a lot of these categories. I mean, low income, 115 gallon, you could have a family of 4 that's low income, and, they're gonna produce more trash than 15 gallons. That gives an opportunity for spilling and dumping or all of it.
Yeah, I made a note, we need to define how you qualify for that, $9.71 rate.
I was just curious, George, how do you define elderly? You talk about
Well,
elderly.
you gotta be careful.
All of us.
I can
Everybody
be
is.
elderly, probably am elderly, but how would you define
Well,
it?
you gotta be very careful when you're defining it.
depends on.
And that may be the wrong word used. We actually define all that as the amount of trash used. We've got, and this is elderly, over 65-year-old, single person or a couple that does not produce much trash, doesn't have any kids in the house. So we actually define it by volume. They will use 15 gallons or more of trash, or 15 gallons or less a week. Now, if they use 2 gallons, then they're not really on that. So that is probably not worded right. They'd be on the regular two bag service if they use more than that.
Yeah.
Well, I qualified for what you said, but I generate probably 70 gallons in a week.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but
You don't recycle.
Well,
You're
maybe
not
Maybe
recycling.
they're only 15-gallon bags, though, come to think of it. There's probably only
If you,
15-gallon bags.
if you recycle, you don't generate that.
You know, what size is your container? Is it the
Yeah,
95?
it's a 35-gallon container. I mean, my trash can is 30 gallons, 35.
Sue and I very seldom have more than 1 13-gallon bag,
That's the size of the kitchen bag,
Yeah.
all kitchen bag, yeah.
and we recycle.
I usually have 2 or 3 of those.
You're wasteful.
Lynn, you have a question?
Yes, I do. On the bottom of my page 10, in section 3, in the section holidays, I suggest that we list every holiday rather than leaving it as such other holidays as may be agreed. I think we ought to have a defined list of holidays that they're not going to perform service. All it's listed is Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day.
That is the only holidays we do not run.
Okay.
So then we don't need the other such holidays as may be agreed to. We can cross it out.
Yes.
Okay, I had a question more than, maybe a comment more than a question, I don't know. And it comes down to, it's the use of dumpsters again. We have a lot of VRBOs out here, a lot of them. And some of them, maybe all of them, are operated by third parties. The owner of the property simply contracts with some, property management company, and they rent the places out, they collect the money, they clean the units, they dispose of the trash, they take the cost of trash collection out of the rent, and, and their fees and everything else. and then they send what's left to the property owner. So the property owner is paying for trash pickup through the property management company. I know of one instance here, because the person called me, she lives up in Missouri, owns 4 properties here, and has them managed for her. And that company has a dumpster, so they take, I don't know how many properties they manage, but they supposedly take the trash from all of these properties that they manage and put them in the dumpster that they're paying for. I can see that's a good business practice. It's not clear in my mind how we manage that. Because that company, that property management company, you know, they're gonna pick up clients, they're gonna drop clients. Now, how are we gonna keep up with whether or not all of these properties are actually paying for trash pickup and having it done properly? I don't have an answer to that, but it's something before we finalize this contract, it's something that we're gonna have to figure out how to deal with. And I have another concern about dumpsters. If we're going to let a property management company have a dumpster and use it to collect trash from several properties, where is that dumpster going to be located? We do not want dumpsters sitting in the middle of residential areas because it just happens to be centrally located, or it's a lot big enough to hold a dumpster along with, you know, the rest of the property. So that's a question I would have. If we're going to allow for that, then, you know, where is the dumpster going to be located? Are we going to have a dumpster lot somewhere here in Holiday Island where all the commercial accounts put their dumpsters? Also, if we allow property management companies to bundle like that, to bundle residences for trash collection, are we gonna let neighborhoods do it? What if me and and 6 of my neighbors want to bundle, because it's cheaper for us to get a small dumpster than it is for us to pay for curbside pickup? Are we going to allow that? I would say no.
I think you're gonna have to.
Again, because you don't want dumpsters in a residential area.
In your definition of this management company collecting trash from multiple locations, they are a trash collector. They're not permitted to do that in this contract or our ordinance.
Yeah, they're gonna have to be individual, they're individual residents and pay a fee.
Right.
I guess that's a way of looking at it, I don't know.
I know, you know, like George said, Barrow, Green Forest, and Eureka, they've all got little differences in the contracts because each city's unique. And I think that Holiday Island certainly unique in some of the, the way you're set up with so many vacation homes and everything. What I would suggest is get you a committee and sit down with all these questions and customize your contract to make it work for Holiday Island. What works for Barrow might not be the best for Holiday Island, as we explained, but you all have some legitimate issues, you just hash them out the best you can. I promise you, no matter how long you work on it, you'll get into it and you'll find something you missed. But I think y'all have got a good handle on the property here and the people that live here and what their needs are. I would just customize our contract with the Carroll County Solid Waste and choose them to match your town.
I would think Eureka would have a lot of similarities in that. There's a lot of Airbnb.
Yeah, we don't have time to talk about Eureka.
I have another comment.
Yes.
Also in section 3, it's my page 13, and it's the heading mandatory service, trash accounts, and building procedures. The first sentence says, the city ordinance, trash services, the city of Holiday Island is considered a part of the city's provision of basic utility services. We don't have any basic utility services. That language needs to change, I don't know what it would be. Bottom of my page 13, it's mandatory service, trash accounts, and billing.
Did you number your pages?
I did, from the front to back.
That's why you can't find the number.
It's in
George, you need to number the pages.
section 3. Find section 3 at the top, and then it's
I remember the paragraph you're talking about.
4 pages down.
We can modify that to,
I ain't gonna try and find it then.
And then if we turn the page, it's the notices that, if a contract is to be changed. In my business experience, sending notices by first-class mail is not appropriate. That the certified mail, registered mail by return receipt would be appropriate. That's in the next page under notice, just above the signatures.
is that, I mean, this is something you probably do regularly.
Now, this is if we want to change the contract between us and the contractor. We notify them by first-class mail? I don't think so.
I just tell Dan, he'll take the
This says you have to do it by mail. If you want to do it by phone, we need to add that. I'm making notes.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Okay,
I'm not sure that we need to have, return mail certification that it was delivered.
it says the last sentence, notice is deemed to have been sent when received at the appropriate address. So if you don't have a return receipt, you don't have a date.
Yeah, you can get that
Yes,
on
you
the,
can.
you can get that from the post office, even if you
You
don't.
can go online.
Yeah, you can go online,
Okay,
get the date.
all right,
With certified mail, you just put in the number and it'll track it.
okay. All right, any more? I have more.
Okay?
Section 4. The section is residential services, operations, and performance. It says in the first paragraph, customers may choose from among 2 alternative styles of service. The rate table has nearly a dozen on it. So something needs to change on which service they pick. It lists bag or can or a 95-gallon cart. That's only one of 2 services in this contract you can pick.
I should have numbered them.
Right here. You pick one of the 2. And these are the 2.
Rate page is gonna end up being an appendix or something to that.
Yeah, we'll have to.
So I was on that, with
There's no rate.
regard to that particular situation, I was wondering if you have to use the 95-gallon or 65-gallon container that you provide, or can you use your own can, or just set out a bag?
There's a couple places where it says customer owned.
Well, Maryland, what we call the 2 types of services, is you either have a dumpster or you don't have a dumpster.
Is it
You
dumpster?
have a polycard or you put it in bags.
Polycards?
That's the 2 types, there's different rates for different amounts you might use in those.
Okay, but it's okay if you put it in a bag out at the curb?
Yes.
If your neighbor don't have a garbage eating dog, you'll be.
Our ordinance says that it has to be in a container.
I thought so, yeah. So,
Well, we need to think about that,
But, right,
because, I mean, maybe not down on the island as much, but up in the, forests and, even the street we live on,
Wild
Table Rock,
animals.
we got
Yeah, raccoons, man.
possums and raccoons and.
you better not have it out overnight.
No, and then the dogs, the amount of dogs that just run crazy.
I don't know,
I think we ought to leave that language in.
I'm trying to figure out
So,
if I got a
it require a
65
can
gallon
or a
cart.
cart, polycard or a can at least?
so in your rate system, if you have a 95-gallon cart, and I only put 2 bags in it, am I charged the 2-bag rate even though I have a cart?
No, you're charged the 95-gallon car.
Okay, in the contract, it says customer-owned container, it says I can own a 35-gallon container, so that's where my 2 bags would go,
Yes.
okay? And it says
It
underneath
would
these two,
be, we would take 2 35-gallon containers for 2 bags, 2 35-gallon cans, or 2 bags.
okay. Under the, this services and overflow fee, on the table, I'm guessing it says extra bag, that's an overflow fee. Is that a
Yes.
15-gallon bag or a 30-gallon bag?
That is a 30-gallon bag, 35-gallon bag.
35 gallon.
And you're recommending a tag system like they do Berryville?
No, that would be entirely how you want to write yours up, but, I wouldn't recommend it, I would just recommend a flat fee. If a customer's a 2-bag customer and they said 3 bags out, we just charge $1.50 for that extra bag.
Well, okay, but if it's in a cart, how do you know if they've got 6 bags or 2?
Okay, if it's in a cart, they won't get the price of the truck, the cart charge, so it don't matter how many bags. If they stuff 10 bags in there, they're gonna get charged.
Okay, but like, for instance, we were gone, we came back, no, we weren't gone, we had visitors, and we generated more trash. We got a 95, couldn't get it all, set one on type, and did I get charged for that?
You should have gotten charged for
Okay,
that.
well, no, I'm not complaining, that.
He never even noticed.
I never knew it, but, I mean, I guess I expected that.
That's a great way to do it, I think.
In practical terms, I bet that if it happens once in a blue moon, they'll probably just throw it in the truck and forget about it. Because it's more trouble than what it's worth to record that, you know, the overage and do the extra billing. But if it happens every week, they're gonna do something about it.
We went with volume-based rates in Berryville, just primarily to encourage the recycling. Because technically the recycling is free. And so, you know, what our rates is your first bag is your basic rate. And then after that, you have to buy the bag tags. And then you got the choice, you know, buy an extra bag tag or recycle. And we feel like it boosts the recycling rates by having volume-based rates. But, you know, like I say, every town's different. And, you know, what y'all are looking at here, y'all are gonna have to work it out. There's a lot of details. And like I say, you're not gonna catch all of it.
On page 16, the hours of collection, it says 5 a.m. to 6. Our ordinance says 7 a.m. So they have a 5 a.m. in the contract.
No, they'll have to change
Okay.
the ordinance because.
Change the ordinance to 5
Yeah.
a.m. Okay.
Because if they don't start at 5 o'clock in the morning, they won't be done.
No.
Sure.
On the next page, under section 5B, commercial services, operations, and performance, there's service fees for bulky waste and C&D services. What's C&D services?
Construction and demolition, or tearing down a house, boards, concrete.
So either building a house or tearing one down?
Yes, other than normal household, weekly household trash. It's construction material.
All right, Lynn, what else do you have?
I'm getting there. It's a change on rate changes in section 9. It says for each subsequent year of the term hereof, the contractor may receive rate adjustments upward or downward. I would propose that we change it to will. And then it's tied to the consumer price index. And then at the bottom, it says basis of significant changes in the cost of operations and change such as to limited to revise laws, ordinance, regulations, and put a percentage of cost of fuel change on here. So that when this price of gas from $6 goes back down to 3 or 2, there'll be a rate change, that they have to change it.
Well,
And it also allows them to change it upward when it goes up.
Wishful thinking.
Well, that's a proposal in my contract. And I suggested 25% change. That's significant based on the sentence. How often do you change the rates because of fuel costs?
We never have.
Aren't you considering it in this climate that we're in now?
It is.
No, we've always been able to handle those, you know, because we keep reserve now. If it keeps up forever, yeah, we will. But you know, that's the advantage we have is being able to stay flexible like that. We've never had to do it, but, you know, we're good business practices to have it in there. If something happened and it went to $10 a gallon, we'd have to. But it's something that we don't use, it just protects ourselves in, you know, very odd circumstances. Back in, what was it, 2008, you know, whenever gas got up to about $4 or $5, I don't think we even did it then.
We did not raise rates.
We did not do it then.
The only rates we've ever raised was the CPI.
The Consumer Price Index.
Yes.
And did you change that with every revision of the CPI? Did you change it every time the CPI changed?
No.
Okay. I'll scratch my will.
Yeah, I think that May is the best, because they may come up with other economies to be able to hold the rates down.
They raised it twice.
In this same paragraph, the last sentence says, in addition to the above, the district may petition the city at any time for additional rate and price adjustments. And the word may petition, does that mean that you negotiate it?
Yes, we would have to ask you, say, if Town landfill suddenly closed, and we had to start going to Cherokee Village or something like that, or, you know, or Cherokee Nation landfill, and that would be a major thing. That's just, you know, if we come to you asking for a rate adjustment, we're gonna have to justify it. You know, we're not gonna be able to come in here and say, hey, George bought a new truck, you know, we need a rate increase.
And the board would vote on that also.
And the board, our board has to approve it, and you all would have to approve it also.
The only other notes I have are on this Exhibit A, that we need to make it clear, you know, the definitions tied to the contract. Like we talked about, elderly, disabled, and the low income, so we need to put those titles in there. The inactive, we need to include the vacation and minimum rate, because that's in the contract. And the extra bag is called the overflow fee. So we just need to make the table match the text. And that extra bag, we need to define it's a 35-gallon bag, so it's not a 15-gallon bag.
Fish yards or dumpsters?
And I think there
Dumpsters, 2 yards.
Yes.
may be a need for some kind of language as to how many times the overflow fee can be applied before the person is required to go to the next larger container, because $1.75 is cheap. Now, under the 2-bag service, you're paying $8.32 a bag. If you're really generating 3 bags of garbage every month or every week, you know, $1.75 for the 3rd bag is pretty cheap. So.
You just stumbled into the basic question I had on the rate sheets. Are they monthly or weekly?
Weekly.
Monthly.
Monthly,
Monthly.
yes.
I had that note too.
Okay.
Change it to monthly.
I think that needs to be mentioned on the rate sheet, they're monthly. And, also, what is a yard? 2 yard, 3 yard, 4 yard?
It's cubic yards, they are containers.
Dumpsters.
Container dumpsters.
Oh, they're dumpsters?
Yes,
Okay.
rear load trucks.
Dumpster sizes?
Yes.
Or, what, do you have an idea of a percentage of commercial businesses, that use dumpsters, or use your dumpsters, or get some other dumpsters?
Most commercial businesses do deal with the with the exception of Eureka Springs, there's a lot of making recklesses. Eureka Springs is also a hillside town. A lot of places couldn't get dumpsters, so they had to specify their contract. I can't say each contract is unique for the town, but most commercial businesses will take.
I guess my question is, should we require that the dumpsters come from you? Because if you look at like construction sites, there are other
Yes,
dumpsters.
their dumpsters would need to come from us, yes.
Is that in the contract?
Because we provide them as the service.
Is that in the contract?
It'll have to be in the ordinance, probably.
In the ordinance.
Okay. That's what we need.
And they couldn't get service, if they got service anywhere else, they would provide that dumpster too. I don't know if anybody had dumpster on this.
No, I mean, I had, when we were remodeling our house, the person doing it called somebody, and it wasn't a Carroll County dumpster that came. Parked in my driveway.
Okay, any other comments from the council? I'll open it up to comments from the floor. Come up to the mic, introduce yourself.
Starting at 3 minutes now.
You only get two.
7 Cypress Point. I'm also a member of the Board of Commissioners. And I have a question for Mayor Kim and George. Thank you very much for coming. I understand from our secretaries in the office that we have about 1,600 water meters. So if we were going into this program, about how many customers do you have now in Holiday Island? And if you had every customer, that'd be 1,600. That's a water meter, apartment, home, condo. Can you hire enough people to do this? The reason I ask this is you've been kind enough to put a cardboard dumpster across the street. And when Lawrence Blood was district manager, he and I were always stacking that thing up because people just come and it's full. So I called your office in Maryville, said, sir, we don't have enough people. We've got to have people come over. We got to pay them overtime to dump that cardboard dumpster. So my question is, I really agree with everybody on the same system. I like this idea. The billing of it is another question that's probably going to come up at our meeting a week from Monday. But how will you be able to hire and buy more trucks and hire enough people to get this done?
Believe it or not, we're not gonna have to hire a bunch more people or buy more trucks. Our trucks are going by these houses we don't serve anyway.
Okay.
So it's just gonna be a matter of adding those to it. And I will tell you, the last year with the pandemic, and we have struggled to keep employed, just like everybody else. Georgia's been on the back truck slinging trash. But we've raised our wages about $2 an hour, I think. Try to keep CDL. What the problem we have, we were hiring CDL drivers for $17 an hour, get them certified. 2 weeks later, they're working for JB Hunt or somebody like that. So it has been a challenge keeping personnel, but we've looked at the figures and Georgia directly on this. It's not gonna increase our need for equipment or personnel that much at all. Because like I say, we're just gonna be, instead of driving by that house, we'll be stopping here.
The last question for 3 minutes is how many customers do you have now, either for?
We have approximately 950 now.
Good, thank you.
Time is bigger.
My name is Nathaniel Mann. I own Osage Trash Service. I was wondering, I do cleanups, like I'll go inside rental properties and I'll clean up a house that people moved out of. They leave horrible messes. Is Carroll County Solid Waste going to do something like that? And if not, will I be allowed to come in and do work like that inside the city limits?
What Carroll County Solid Waste would do is we would set, for the owner, we would set a container, but it would be the responsibility of the owner. But I'm sure they're paying you to do this, to perform this form. We would provide what they needed.
So you would provide
except for the help, we would not provide them employees.
Would I be allowed to come in? But I would have to throw the trash in your dumpster.
Yes, if they wanted to hire you, we would set our dumpster, and you would throw the trash inside of our dumpster.
All right. Another point that I had is, I've got a small truck, a light truck. Your big trash trucks outweigh my truck by at least twice.
Yes.
And if you guys are worried about the damage done to your roads, the big trash trucks are gonna do a lot more damage than the small trucks. And I doubt that you guys are gonna be able to do it all in one day. You said that you didn't want multiple trash trucks running around in multiple days. And, I don't think you guys would be able to.
No, I couldn't do it in one day, but I wouldn't be running down the same street on the other day. My trucks would be on the streets only one time a week. I do run single axle trucks.
Yeah.
And, there's benefits to a single axle truck and there's benefits to, a double axle truck. The single axle truck on chip and seal roads, which is mainly what Holiday Island is, does the least amount of damage. Now, I'm not gonna say it does less damage than your one-ton truck does. But I've also got, Acrats, which is one-ton vehicles and pickups that I try to run on the little, like a White River Lane, with the little loops at the end of them that I try to run down those lanes.
But by doubling your customer base, you're not gonna increase your runs? You're saying that your trucks leave here with so little trash in them currently that you don't have to really bring more trucks in?
No, what?
That's what he's saying that we can just
No,
stop
what
those houses
Mayor-
that we're already going by. We can
Well,
stop
we
those
are.
houses.
Yes, but what Mayor Tim's actually saying is a lot of these houses are not, we cover basically all of Holiday Island now. We just don't pick up every customer now. I would add to another day with what I'm doing now, and I would add another truck. I'm running 5 trucks out here right now on Wednesday. I would just need to add a 6th truck and another day. And I would split it up. Some trucks one day, some trucks another day. They would not be running down the same roads the next day, but it would cover everything because we're going by everything now with the 5 trucks.
What size axle trucks are those like?
They are a single axle truck. We do not run a double axle truck.
I just wanted to ask a few questions, because Holiday Island's like 1/3 of my customers, and pretty much basically put me out of business. So,
Yes,
I'm worried about it.
seems like the concern is the accountability of the licensed provider, ease of oversight by the committee, and also the trucks. But my questions are probably to you, I'm gonna get to the emails actually to y'all. About the vacation rentals, how do you know if I'm just a resident and I'm just like, I don't wanna pay for service? I'm just gonna say, you know what, I'm not here. How's that oversight gonna occur?
It's in the contract that Carroll County Solid Waste will be sending a bill for an amount for a minimum charge until you get caught up. They're gonna have a list of the water meters, people that have water meters attached, and be sending out bills either for service or for not having service.
Right, so I can go with the lowest, have not service, just throw it in my backyard.
We will have a code enforcement officer that will be doing some degree of patrolling, looking for the obvious things. I would say that we probably won't be able to catch everybody all the time that's trying to cheat the system. But we'll be better off than what we are today.
Well, it sounds like you said that there are a dozen properties that have self-identified themselves. It sounds like that's a big part of the oversight, really, is neighbors really looking out for the welfare of the community. So ease of oversight of proper disposal, he's a licensed provider. So erasing a small business doesn't seem very rewarding to the person that's working.
Another point that I got is, as far as the cleanups go, a lot of people don't have money. They can't afford to rent a large dumpster and then pay somebody to come in and do the work to clean up. I'm a small company. I've done bartering. I've traded services for a broke down car so I could take it to Big Rock Recycling and get paid. Otherwise, people can't afford to have the yards cleaned up. So you gotta consider that too. There's people that can't afford, a big trash service. That trash is just gonna sit there because they can't afford Carroll County Solid Waste. So if a small company can't come in and clean that up, That's your problem, that trash is gonna sit there. I mean, then you wanna fine that person, give them a fine for not having that cleaned up? They couldn't afford it in the first place? It just digs a hole.
I hear what you're saying, and I don't wanna sound unsympathetic, but there's no other city in Carroll County that they could move to and improve their situation if they don't have money. And we don't want Holiday Island to be the community of last resort for people that can't afford to do anything but throw their garbage in the backyard. And, you know, I'm sorry if that sounds insensitive, but that's, you know,
Are there other cities that have multiple providers and do well?
what?
Are there other cities that have multiple providers?
Not in Carroll County.
I don't know
Well,
any
is there
cities.
something preventing that?
What?
Is there something preventing having multiple?
I think
We
the
use
fact-
Ability to
Osage.
manage it?
I'm Jane O'Hara, 28 Mission Hills Lane, and I'm speaking also for my partner Jan Wills. She's home with our sick dog. But we moved here 4 years ago. We went with Carroll County Waste because we were told how everybody does it. 4th of July rolls around. We never received any information about holidays or changed pickups. Didn't put our trash out. I've never lived anywhere where they picked up trash on major federal holidays. And so we called, because we actually saw the truck. The bin was out by the garage. We went over to the truck and said, can you get our trash? No, we can't, we're past you already. We called the office. Oh, well, we don't, you know, we don't pick up from the garage. And we would have rolled it out, but they weren't gonna pick it up because they passed us up. So we called the office, we said, want to cancel service, we'll get someone else. And the guy who was on the phone said, well, that's no reason to cancel service. It's supposed to be service. We got Nate. For 4 years, he has done nothing but the best service. Some of those windy days, we've had the recycle bin low down the hill. He's gone and picked all that up, brings the bins back to the garage for us. Our freezer died in the garage. He was out there the same day to pick it up. And I want to do business with small business that gives you service. So that's my 2 cents. And I think it's wrong to put people out of business. Just because everyone is, you know, it's always been done like that. It's the problem with
It
this.
does seem like the main concerns for going with one provider are ease of oversight, and accountability of that licensed provider to dispose of the waste property.
Mhm.
He can prove that he does that. I can prove I have a contract with him. We're not friends, it's not, I mean, George can.
Exactly.
Yes, he is, I'm saying his license for this. As a district, we do the licensing of the other small haulers. We permit the other small haulers.
There are, I'm sure, you know, reputable people doing business out here that do great service.
So why limit
But
them?
because we can't have an ordinance that might only be good for today's circumstance.
He's a licensed provider and proves that he's environmentally responsible.
Well, there are licensed providers, and we're not gonna name names, but there are people licensed right now under Carroll County Solid Waste that have had problems in the past.
Well, you should name names then, so we're aware of who not to
I know
use.
my name's not on that.
I know your name is not
And
on
I'm
that
not
list.
opposed to their business at all, that's not why I'm here voicing my opinion, I'm sure you guys do a great business, that's not passion at all, if you don't take it that way. It's not about that, it's about someone that does a great job, turns out to be a wonderful person, licensed, environmentally responsible. Why can't he be part of it? You don't need to have a blanket contract for oversight.
I don't know how we'd manage it. I don't know how we would,
I'll prove I have a contract.
well, so we're gonna have to hire, you want the city to hire people.
You said you were gonna hire a code enforcement person for that reason.
The code enforcement person's gonna be dealing with the properties that are already in bad shape.
12 of them?
Know how long it takes to deal with that? I just, you know, you're looking at the short term, this current situation. You know, if there's, how many people are licensed right now to pick up trash in Holiday Island? 10, 12?
I don't know about Holiday Island, because I don't know, who all comes in. I did not, you say Mohawk is over there, I did not know that, till you told me that. We just license them within the district, not a certain.
Well, okay, within the district, because
Within the district.
if they're licensed
now,
within the
we have,
district, they can pick up here.
We have 5 within the district right
And why is my opinion, or my view, short term? What makes that
Because-
short term?
Because what if, you know, what if today it's 5, what if tomorrow it's 9? What if, you know, a year from now, it's 14
How many's it been for the
companies that
last
wanna
decade?
haul trash?
How many's it been for the last decade?
I don't know,
Well, that would answer your question, I think, about the future.
not
To some
necessarily,
degree.
no?
Why not?
Right,
Why not? You think next week 5 new trash haulers are gonna get licensed?
One thing I don't think we talked about, at least I'm not clear about it, your licensing ability to these other companies that haul trash in Carroll County. What does that mean? Does that mean that you feel they're reliable, in their ability to adhere to all the Arkansas state regulations?
now. Okay.
Do you stand behind them?
Tim mentioned something to me about his wife, so I did not catch all of that. What was the question?
My question?
Yes.
Yeah, licensing, your licensing of, companies who haul trash in Carroll County. What does that licensing mean?
Okay, as a district, we are permitted by ADQ. As a district, we have, flow control. We have, as a district, we license any small hauler within our district. We do the permitting, we do the licensing, and send all that information.
What's the
to
criteria?
ADQ.
Yeah, but
that's-
what is it?
Okay, the criteria for that is, really just to be a small hauler, you have to have a vehicle that, is registered, insured to a certain amount, no leaks, which you're going to, just good shape vehicle, all the licensing up to date, insurance up to date on it, and just fill out a request form to us that you want to become a small hauler. I mean,
What are you certifying by your licensing?
what am I, okay, we
What are you
are,
standing behind?
Yeah, what makes you give him a license is what she's asking. A guy that has a truck that doesn't have leaks, how do you know it doesn't have leaks?
well, I don't really.
Exactly. And so my point is, what motivates you? If I wanna come to you and say, hey man, you know what, I decided that's what I wanna do. What motivates you? Is it just my application?
You
Well,
gotta
you have
get,
interview?
no, you fill out an application, you're actually getting licensed through Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. As a district, I'll take care of that for them and send that off to them, but there's really no.
Do you guarantee that they go to a landfill, a proper
That,
landfill?
okay, that's where, as being a district, I've got flow control.
What does that mean?
Well, that's control of where the trash goes and where the trash is disposed of.
So you would know
Osage
where
brings
Nate's-
all of his trash to our transfer station.
Okay, so you know where all of his trash is going?
Yes,
Okay.
and, if he takes it out of the district, I gotta know where it's going. If he takes it out of the district, he's gonna pay other district fees. To take it out of the district, he's gonna pay my district fees plus their district fees.
So you're probably not gonna do that. So how long have you known him?
His dad for a long time, your dad,
I'm sorry.
15 years,
You ever had any issues with him?
never had any issues with him. Well, yeah, his dad might have run off my scale or something, but no, issues with them doing something illegal. No, I've never had any issues.
That's all I'm saying, man.
They are small haulers in this district that ADQ has had illegal issues.
I'm sure.
But Osage is not one.
So you're telling us that, Nate does as good a job of taking care of trash as CCSW?
Well, yes, I wouldn't say that he doesn't, no. Carroll County Solid Waste, we've got 26 trucks, we got 57 routes that we run weekly within Carroll County. We've got backup trucks. If we got a truck that goes down, we've got a backup truck. One of the criteria in looking at licensing someone is if they've got backup trucks. But as far as what the city should look at is, you know, have they got, if they've got a truck that goes down, have they got another truck that they can run? You know, the city would want to look at that. That's what all the other cities are. Criteria for the city, I've had to be able to show that and prove that. When we took over Bearville, we had to be able to show this is how many trucks we've got, and this is how we're gonna take care of you if a truck goes down.
Back to the
I
trucks.
wanna make a point, Linda, and this isn't criticism or skepticism or anything about anybody that's working out here right now. When he says he has flow control, it is totally on the honor system. He is not following, now I'm putting words in your mouth, but you're not following all of these other trucks around to see what they're doing with everything.
No, I do not follow these other trucks around, no. Within our district, ADU requires me, if something is, if a complaint is called in, if Osage gets a complaint called in from a customer or from someone in the county, ADQ refers that complaint to me because I'm one of the ones who license through ADQ. And I've got to investigate that. There was another hauler that's how we found out they was burning trash, doing stuff wrong. ADQ got made us aware of it. We found out it was Missouri, so we called the Missouri Department of Environmental Quality, and they took care of it. But it was in our district, so we had to we had to start the process. And with the flow control, the only reason I'll mention that is I've got to be, it's my responsibility as a district to know who is hauling in my district, that they are following regulations, and their permits are up to date, their licensing is up to date. They bring proof of that to me every year when I relicense them, when they apply for this license. And where the trash goes, if they take it out of my district, say for, and I can force everything in my district to come to my transfer station, but I don't in a lot of cases. carts out of, they're nationwide. They bought out a small company in Huntsville, Madison County. They pick up, they have their own transfer station. They pick up in Carroll County. They're licensed through us to pick up in Carroll County. I've got their transfer station permit number and all that, because what comes out of Carroll County and goes into another county, I'm responsible if something would happen to that and it got to landfill, well, it's gonna come back to me just like it would come back to you as a city.
Can I ask about the vehicles? You talked about, no leaks, good condition, et cetera. How many of these other companies are you aware of that use just a pickup with a chicken wire cage around it?
There is, 3, I believe, in Carroll County. And as far as leaks on the truck, I'm sure if DOT was to crawl under a Carroll County solid waste truck, they're gonna find leaks.
I understand that. I'm more concerned about the pickups and those cages, because you can follow, and I'm not singling out any one, because I don't know which is which, if there are 3 companies doing that. But you can follow them up the street, and you can count on a couple of 3 bags, especially when they're getting full, falling off.
But now I read the ordinance that you guys wrote up, and I noticed in there you had tarp, be able to contain the load with tarps or other means, which is good to have in there. The city of Burley also has that in there. Any load must be tarped before it comes through the city of Burley.
Well, I'm going back to the same basic point relative to multiple carriers. We simply are not gonna have the resources as a city to be able to manage 4 or 5 different companies hauling trash, even if they're all great people, because even if they're all great people today, this ordinance is hopefully going to stand for 100 years.
So
This ordinance has to cover the future, and so that's one point. Secondly, if we have multiple carriers, how are we going to be assured that everyone in Holiday Island is actually paying for trash pickup?
how many water meters are paying now?
1,600,
How many water meters have trash service?
I don't know. That's why we're passing this ordinance. It's not 1,600.
Nobody tracks that today, because we don't control traffic.
And that's one of the reasons, is so we have some control.
But to take it down to 1?
This has been a problem for 20 years at least, and we've had multiple users and everybody's on the honor system to do it, and it ain't worked.
I think the thought is that HICID would give a listing from their water system to CCSW, and they would map it to their customers that are signed up there and tell us if there's any discrepancies every month. If we have to send that to everybody, people can say they're switching, between carriers. I'm dissatisfied with Osage, I'm gonna switch to ACE, or I'm gonna switch to Republic, or I'm gonna switch to CCSW, or I'm gonna leave CCSW and switch to Nate, it just becomes a nightmare, as Dan says, I think, to control that situation.
I was wondering, what exactly is the problem that you're having as far as, you said that, you don't want the individual person to be responsible for their own trash? What's the problem that, Holiday Island's having with the trash right now, as far as not letting the individual person choose which provider they have, and having to go with one person, like what's the argument that says, is there a lot of trash that only Carroll County can take care of? Because you're mandating like a bill for everybody, and yeah, now everybody's gonna have to pay for trash service, but that doesn't mean that everybody's gonna, clean up their yard and, make Holiday Island a nice, pretty place, just because.
Chances are, if they're paying for trash service, they're going to put the trash out by the curb.
If they don't,
Yeah, but what's the issue right now that makes you need to go to
12 toxic waste dumps.
Is that gonna change by going to a single provider?
is Carroll County Solid Waste gonna clean those up with this contract?
They're
Yeah,
working
how
on a
does that
couple of them
fix-
right now.
How does that fix the flow?
Nobody wants that stuff, that's for sure. It's just, the reasoning to go to a single, it's a monopoly.
I think it's more monopoly
It-
it's more monopoly.
You can call it what
than
you
legitimate
want.
Call it what it
market.
But it's what every city does. I don't know of a single city that has 4 or 5 different companies picking up trash in the city.
Holiday Island's had it for a long time and it's been just fine.
it hasn't.
No, it hasn't been just fine.
Nobody
I
has
can take you 2 blocks from here and show you not just fine.
To one of 12.
It's
Is Carroll
horrible.
County gonna clean that up? Is that part of Carroll County's contract to clean up that mess? Or what is Carroll County gonna do to fix that problem?
Those 12.
Those 12 problems, how are they gonna fix that?
I believe they've already cited
3.
3 of them,
Decided 3.
but we have to go through the process of going through the legal system.
And you have to hire them to do that. And you have to
No.
hire them to do that?
That's
No.
their job.
No,
That's what I'm saying.
Carroll
That's
County
my
Solid
point.
Waste Disposal has 2 licenses backed by the Arkansas State Attorney General. Licensed enforcement officers, I am one of them. We had badges, we got citations, take people to court. And, it's the only AEQ, of course, we get small grants for this.
Of course.
But, we don't get money from the city.
So what's gonna change if you get all the contracts or the way your status is right now with your approach to those 12 toxic sites?
Well, nothing really, I'm gonna have to clean out of these
Exactly.
12 toxic sites, but here's what Mayor Dan is trying to say. If you're forced mandatory to have trash service, then it's less likely that you're gonna have a site that you need to clean up. And that is a proven fact.
I'm not disputing that, of course.
Yeah.
People are not as responsible as we all wish they were. We all know that.
And there's always gonna be illegal
Always.
sites
Always.
that's gonna have to be cleaned up, no matter what the city does.
Exactly.
And that's why ADQ has licensed officers in every district, because it became a problem. They had to find a way to take care of this situation. And gave us the authority to take them to court. I work with the local law. The local law works with me. I have authority to go on properties. I have authority if I see her, or I am ADQ or the public calls in and lets us know.
Which is mainly how it happens, isn't it?
Yes,
By the
that's
neighbor's
mainly
fault,
how it
right?
happens. Either the public will call in, the sheriff's office will call in, or ADQ, they also have people out there looking. They will call in, I will go investigate, and, I've not had to take anybody to court. I talked to the people. They're willing to clean it up. So far, I've not had to take anybody to court, and we get it cleaned up. I don't charge them anything. They've got to pay for the disposal of the
I
trash.
know you said you get grants.
We do get
Of course.
small grants from the ADQ.
That's good.
I want to ask a question for a second. It's a little bit more related to, as an individual, if I buy a piece of property that I've got to do, work on, and Nate has hauled my trash over here since the beginning, but if I want to, if I've got a trailer that I want to load trash on to haul off, and I'm hauling it to his facility as an individual, according to this ordinance, that wouldn't be legal, would it?
There's nothing in our ordinance that speaks to that topic.
You said I can't haul trash.
No, I was talking about a property manager collecting trash from several places and putting it someplace else. That
But
makes
we're
them a trash
designated in
collector.
the proper location in a dumpster.
He's saying you can't collect from several residents, from several addresses and put it to one central.
Right, that's what we were talking about earlier.
But as an individual, if I want to load my trailer with trash from whatever project I'm working on, and I wanna haul it there, and I understand the problem is not everybody hauls it there, they haul it out and dump it somewhere else if they get a chance. But is that, are we trying to fix that by requiring that it has to go in his dumpster? So if I'm gonna remodel a house, I have to have his dumpster there, and that's where everything has to go. You see, and I don't know the answer, I'm just, that's why I'm posing this is.
There's no language in the ordinance that would prohibit a person from putting his trash in a trailer and taking it to the dump.
And the
There's
other
nothing in the
cities
ordinance that says that, no.
That the other cities that have granted me a contract, that also, the person that owns the trash can haul it to our facility.
But you're saying a Airbnb, because they technically don't own the property, would not be allowed to gather trash and then go to a central location?
I think we don't wanna confuse terms here. There's household garbage and refuse, and there's construction materials. You know, if you're doing a remodel job and you've got a room and you throw the drywall and the 2x4s on a trailer and haul it to their landfill or to their collection site, I don't think there's anything in the ordinance that would prohibit that.
Okay.
On the other hand, if you were to take all of the bags of trash out of your motel every day and load them on your trailer and take them to the collection site, that would be against the regulation.
Okay. I think we got all these yard service people running around doing tree trimming and et cetera. That would still go on.
Yeah, this contract doesn't cover yard waste whatsoever.
No, that's a different ordinance.
Yard waste cannot go into an Arkansas lane.
No.
And they do.
I understand that you do have you take in yard waste on Wednesdays at the recycling center.
The recycling center doesn't, it is open to the county, the city of Eureka Springs does. And our compost is right next to the recycling center in Eureka Springs.
So,
And they take it, but it's the city that operates it.
but anybody can take their yard waste there?
Anyone within the county, yes, I believe they're allowed to take it there.
Can we go back to Airbnbs and VRBOs? If we're responsibly picking the trash up in between guests and delivering it to a central dumpster, which we're more than willing to go with Carroll County dumpster, I don't see where that should be a problem as long as we're responsibly dumping it in the proper dumpster.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply that we were going to prohibit that. It's just something, it's something that came up because a lady called me and
Which she's on Zoom and she says you misrepresented your conversation with her. I wasn't involved with your conversation, but she is on Zoom and says you misrepresented the conversation.
I've talked to one lady about it, and I told her that was a circumstance that we hadn't considered, and we'd have to think about it. Now, I do have a concern though, I can, and I said before, I have a concern about where those dumpsters are located. You know, if they're located in a residential area, that could be a problem. You know, if they're not fenced
The thing
in.
that happens the most is everybody and their dog starts dumping on those dumpsters.
Yeah.
And then they overflow them like they did the cardboard and
And
everything
ours,
else.
we are having that problem where our dumpster's at now. And so I want to do away with that. So we're looking for a different, more central. Since we will be managing the motel, we were going to work out something Jerry for the dumpster, but I don't think we should just be closed-minded that that's totally against the law, because I don't believe that's against the law as long as we're dumping of it responsibly.
Actually, I think they make a very good point. because the people that are renting those units leave on various days of the week.
There you go.
And,
Thank you.
you know, you really have to, if you're getting regular trash service, you have to put it out on a particular day.
And do you,
Particular
and do
day,
you
not
wanna come
any
into a
particular
property
day.
and have somebody else's trash still
You
there?
know, the
Well,
owner has to make arrangements for the trash to be collected responsibly.
Right.
let me be clear about what this lady's concern was. She didn't wanna get double charged for trash pickup. She didn't wanna get a bill from Carroll County Solid Waste, cause she's got a water meter and she's required to sign up for trash service, and then have her VRBO management group, you know, hold back
We
money
do not
also.
charge her for, per se, trash service. They pay a percentage, we just include a lot of quirks in that percentage.
So I don't necessarily have a problem with doing that. I just wanna make sure that, first of all, that it is done responsibly, that that dumpster is located someplace where it's not a nuisance to the people that live in the area, and that it doesn't become overflowed. Maybe it has to have a lock on it, so that it doesn't become
I
overflowed
agree with that.
on the 4th of July weekend, because everybody knows the dumpster's there. Now, I can tell you that Sunfest and, well, the clubhouse up there had to put theirs behind a lock, because on, you know, on Monday morning, it was full, even if the clubhouse was closed. So,
Seems like those violators would still just throw it on top. They're gonna, it seems like if they're gonna, you know, do
could be.
something wrong like that anyway.
But we've also had problems with, when I was on the Board of Commissioners with the district, we'd have problems with, trash bags being piled up by the pavilion down on the island, or trash piles created at the trailhead for, the Leatherwood walking
And
trail.
then they put trash piles out by the dumpster that's only for corrugated
Right.
cardboard too.
Right, so if you don't make people pay for their garbage, they're gonna find a way to get rid of it.
In the dark of night.
Or in the light of day, I don't think.
That sounds like a lot of work for.
I see some of this as being kind of an administrative issue. It's how you track these places that are making, for instance, Timber Rock Landing probably has 6 or 8 water meters, but there's people coming and going all the time, and their staff takes all the trash away from those units and puts it in a dumpster. So there's gotta be a way to track which water meters garbage is not rebuilt or something.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point.
Yes.
But there's also the ability to use a more of a commercial type, container. And say you've got multiple units that you're dealing with, but you as an Airbnb, owner has a container that I pay for 10 yards to be set on my property. And then I move all of that trash to that. Well, technically, you can't really charge those 10 homeowners an individual fee for each one of it, because it's all coming off of one deal, and I would assume that the cost of that efficiency of pickup would be cheaper to you than for you to travel to each one of those 10 properties.
Yeah.
So it is all an idea we have to work out and work the details out, and we need to have maybe more of a forum that we can have a little more discussion instead of, we're in favor of what you're doing. Don't misunderstand any of it. But we want to figure out how everybody can benefit from the program. And we want to make Holiday Island the best that it can be, and we believe it will be.
Yeah.
But
The contract and the rate structure was just the first draft.
okay.
And we've already had a ton of good input, and, we'll come up with a better document when we're done.
Maybe we can figure out a way to map these commercial-like properties, like Rock Landing, like the motel, and some of these Airbnbs, to, if they want to arrange their service that way, map a certain dumpster to a group of properties.
And there's also the possibility, and I know what you're saying, there's also the possibility on those properties, maybe that dumpster is required to be put into a corral. Okay, so it's not wide open, in a residential area, on my corner of my property, in my residential area, there may be a trash corral with a privacy fence around it, so that we're not driving through there and looking at everybody's trash piled up. So I think there's ways to figure those systems out, but.
And let me throw one more fly in the ointment here. On top of any ordinance that we may write, we also have to consider the unit covenants, which may prohibit a lot of these good things that we're talking about from being possible too. And I know that unit covenants aren't very well enforced. However, I am seeking a legal opinion as to what liability the city might have if we pass an ordinance that allows for something that is in violation of the unit covenant, because the unit covenant came first, and the Supreme Court has already ruled that unit covenants have value, and if the city does anything to, to diminish that unit covenant, then that's an illegal extraction of value. So we gotta be careful that we don't come up with a plan that, that we may create another problem. So, a lot of things to consider. Well, I think I'm gonna cut off discussion now on the contract and the rate schedule and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is considering the ordinance that would single source the, if I can find it.
It's the top of page 2, reserves the right to award an exclusive franchise.
I was just trying to find the ordinance.
Okay.
All right, so the next thing on the ordinance, on the agenda, is consideration of ordinance number 2022-004, an ordinance providing for the regulation of solid waste and recycling collection and disposal in the corporate limits of Holiday Island. Do I have a motion to put this, do I have a motion to approve? The way we're gonna do this is, I ask for a motion to approve the ordinance. Somebody will second it. If someone seconds it, then we will read the ordinance and open the floor for discussion before we take the vote. And I'll open it again first to the council members and then to the floor. So, Wes, I don't know how long it would take to read all 6 pages. Since it's so contentious, do you think we should? Has this been posted on the website? It has been. Are you making a motion to?
I would move that we, move to pass, do I say move to pass it, and then that allows discussion?
I think.
Or put it on the floor?
No, let's make two motions, one motion to read it by title only, and then another motion to approve.
I'll move that we read ordinance 2022-004 by title only.
Second.
Linda made the motion to read the ordinance 2022-004 by title only. Jerry seconded it. Any discussion? Let's take a roll call vote on that.
Okay, Councilmember Dumas,
Aye.
Councilmember Elwood,
Aye.
Councilmember Graves,
I think we're done with review.
Councilmember Mills,
Thank you.
Aye.
Councilmember Fidman. All in favor?
Okay. Motion to read it by title only is passed. Now do I have a motion to pass the ordinance?
I'll move that we pass ordinance number 2022-004.
Linda made a motion to pass the ordinance. Do I have a second?
A second.
Ken seconded it. Any discussion?
I have several points that I've written down as we've gone through this evening.
Okay,
At the middle of page 2, approved container. It says they're provided by the contractor. The contract that we were talking about earlier says that you can have privately owned containers.
Which page you on?
In the middle of page 2, and under section 2, definition approved container.
So you want me to add that at the end of the
Well,
sentence?
it's contrary to what's in the contract, so
Yeah.
we need to resolve the contrariness.
The contract didn't have two sizes.
Because for low volume customers, they don't need a 96 or 65 gallon olive oil.
The contract talks about a 35-gallon owned car.
You have your own 30 gallon can, 35 gallon can.
Right. It's at the top of page 3, it says in the contract, a trash can or solid waste storage container with a tight-fitting lid that does not exceed 35 gallons in volume capacity, nor 50 pounds in weight when full, that is used and owned by a residential solid waste customer for the purposes of containing solid waste.
So why don't we add for a 35 gallon container with a tight fitting lid,
well,
owned by the customer.
Is it-
Put it in the
We can do
next.
something simpler than that.
I mean, maybe I want to own a 65-gallon container.
well, it says there are other approved size on both lines, so I think that opens the door to any size we put in the contract.
Just set-
Provided by the contractor is what conflicts with the
The agreement.
contract,
Yes.
so. So if we just say, if we scratch provided by the contractor and scratch wheels so that it reads, or other approved size with a lid for the collection of acceptable solid waste and recycling.
So,
But that doesn't refer to privately owned.
I don't think we have to worry about whether it's.
but who approves it? Carroll County has to approve what they buy? We want to set a minimum size?
I don't know that we need to be, do we need to be that specific?
But
It
you
just
could, you could
says-
sort of say as specified, or any container as specified by the contractor.
Well, the concern by striking that language I have is that for Carroll County Solid Waste to be effective in their collection, they need a 96-gallon or a 65-gallon container that fits their equipment. So that part needs to stay there. We need to add that we can allow privately owned containers. We don't want to go to Walmart and buy a 65-gallon container and expect them to have to use it because of the way they attach and dump.
So what's your wording?
At the very end, change the period to a comma, or privately owned 35-gallon container.
Yeah, because that, they can do that.
Right, that's what they do. They open it up and extract the bags.
I have a quick question real quick, if I could.
They allow now, well, my neighbor uses, and it's not 35 gallons.
Right.
It's like a 20 or 18 gallon. Man and wife.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's twice as much as 35 is.
It's 2 kitchen garbage bag size or 3.
I don't wanna have a 65-gallon cart for my 13-gallon.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm sure a lot of people who have small volume would want that.
I got a basic problem with the question, the first page there down at the bottom where it's talking about I own a house and I rent it to somebody, I'm liable for the trash pickup.
You are,
The meter's not in my name, it's in the renter's name.
but ultimately, you're responsible for the property. The Carroll County Solid Waste cites somebody, they cite the property owner, not the renter.
The renter's paying the water bill.
Dan, are we going through this in a 3-reading process?
No, there's an emergency clause on here, so
All right,
This gentleman.
Can we-
I think
yeah.
he
now we
wants
can
to-
scratch the emergency clause and
we'll not approve it.
I don't see why we've got an emergency clause.
Can we go off, agenda to just let him ask one question?
You just have a question.
Sure.
I wanted to know when the, contract would come into effect, so I wanted to know how long I had and how was I.
we were targeting July 1st as the implementation
I've
date.
never been to one of these meetings, so I didn't know.
Oh, that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'm still working on the approved container.
You're writing an awful lot.
I'm not writing anything because I started to write and then Ken started talking about that and so, approved container means. Lynn, read it to me again, what you want.
I kind of changed my mind. Means a 95-gallon container or other approved size provided by the solid waste provider. That needs probably change. Probably the solid waste contractor, right? Not provider. Come on. I think let's change that to contractor.
So you use a contract.
And a 65-gallon container provided by the contractor, maybe comma, or privately owned 35-gallon container, comma, with wheels and a lid for the collection of acceptable solid waste and recycling.
Okay, well, that's almost what I had, so. it's
Okay.
pretty
No,
close.
ours doesn't have wheels.
I know. Maybe move then, if the wheels isn't gonna be needed for the privately owned, move that little phrase to after with wheels, comma,
Yeah. In fact, that's what I did.
all right?
I did almost exactly that, so. Okay. I got that. Now, what was the next comment?
At the top of that page, it talks about a 4% franchise fee as well as in the definition. I'm not in favor of assigning a fee for franchising for collection because common sense, they'll pass that on to the homeowner. Other people
It's
generate
not
it.
assigning it, it says not to exceed.
It's not
It
to
could be
exceed
0.
4%. It's not,
It says not to.
it just says that the city reserves the right to impose a franchise fee. It
Okay.
doesn't impose a franchise fee.
Okay, because this contract has nothing in about a franchise
Right.
fee, so at this point, we're not considering one.
We're not considering
Okay.
one because we are not assuming any of the responsibility for billing or anything like that, so
Sure.
there's no cost to us.
Okay,
But that would be the city council's decision if you wanted to.
okay. All right, at the end of that same paragraph, it starts with shall be payable. Should be according to terms, not accounting to terms. Shall be payable according to terms set forth in.
I don't know, that's the word that the lawyer
Well, the
chose to
lawyer's
put in
wrong.
there.
Of course it's according, yeah.
I've never heard
And
of
then it
payable
makes sense.
accounting to terms.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Never heard that phrase before.
It's gotta be according.
Okay, I got that.
Okay,
Spell check one.
That's the problem with spell check, it doesn't tell you if you use the wrong word.
It's a word spelled correctly. Okay, and this is skipping ahead, section 13 on page 5. I know. The second sentence, the contractor will also publish a list. And I'm wondering, I have made myself a note, shouldn't the city be controlling that list in an ordinance? So they just can't change the list willy-nilly?
And I had the comment, shouldn't it be covered in the contract too?
Sure. Because there's already a list of items that are not allowed and are allowed in the excluded solid waste section of the contract and the solid waste.
Do you really think that it's
I don't know.
such a serious thing that we would have to control that? That we would have to have the list of good, acceptable and not acceptable be part of the ordinance?
I
So
think
that
that's an
you-
argument for going with a single provider. They know what the.
Okay, I just
I
asked a
don't think,
question.
yeah, we
Yeah.
can't, we can't deal with that.
I don't think I wanna have to change the ordinance every time they decide that they, can't pick up radios anymore or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then during our discussion, I made a note at the top that we need language in this ordinance that requires a contractor to have sufficient equipment to ensure service. That was talked about several times. Do we need something like that? In our ordinance or in the contract? That they have the sufficient equipment to ensure service?
I believe,
It's supposed to, is in the contract or is something?
well, I think that the contract basically, I believe the contract has a clause in it that says that we can get out of the contract if they fail to perform.
Okay, so it does have that.
It was in the
Do we need
contract.
to cover the subject that was last addressed from the public, that needing language to cover VRBO trash being consolidated into a dumpster located in a specific location surrounded by a corral to shield from view from the street or other property owners? Does that need to be in the ordinance? We're talking about the city's ordinance for controlling trash.
I'm gonna say probably.
I
It
think
sounds
we do.
like a good idea.
Where were you putting that?
I don't know where, I just made a note at the bottom of page 2, so I wouldn't lose track of it.
That is a significant enough change that I believe we're gonna end up tabling this for tonight and revisiting it, and we can call in a special meeting in 2 weeks if we want to
There's
deal
nothing,
with it again.
How about just not declaring an emergency, so that that's already in.
Strike the emergency clause, we can do that. I didn't ask for the emergency clause.
I don't know why we needed this, we are new
He
name.
wanted to put it in, I thought.
Huh?
It was kind of weird that he wanted to put it in.
I get the impression from talking to Justin that in other cities, every ordinance has the emergency clause. That's just the way they do it.
Well, I wondered why it was in there.
No, the concern would be the timing, that if it was 30, 90 days, then it doesn't really take into effect for 30 days further. It puts it out past July.
Yeah.
We're already March.
Well, I mean, we could,
We can have readings more, right?
Yeah, we
I understand, as far as the readings don't have to be 30 days apart.
right, and we could vote to suspend the second reading and pass it on the third reading too. We've done that in the past. So we need to add a paragraph.
You can have this copy if you like.
It might go under section 6 containers.
I mean, if we're talking about the Airbnbs, that's what's on the table now.
That's where the discussion came from the public.
Okay. I've always contended that if you got, VRBO is, vacation rental by owner, well, it's really not, because
Right.
they've got this guy over in, Eureka that manages, I don't know, dozens.
Right,
And should that not be under commercial waste?
well,
They just have cleanups of all the apartments.
No, you can rent it through his website.
Well, yeah.
Right,
yeah, he
it's
does
just a
that
method of
too.
how you get it reserved, but
It also.
it's still a short-term rental,
He's
but
actually managing the property for him.
it just goes on the term of short-term rentals in general.
Yeah, but you got a lot of them that, have somebody, all they do is clean it up.
And now there are people that manage it themselves, VRBOs. So they don't have a management company
But they,
taking care of
They
the
may just
trash,
have it-
they just have
Then they're gonna
cleaners,
get,
yeah,
cleaners come in and take the trash.
yeah.
they're gonna get contacted then that they have to have a contract. Eventually, every water meter has to be accounted for, either through a consolidation outfit like this or individual contracting or something.
You have a hard time keeping track of whether they all got service.
We
That's,
don't do it, Carroll County does that, Solid Waste Service does that.
Not
In
if,
the contract.
not if you're gonna bundle these up and let them handle their own waste and not.
that was the point I tried to make, and
And
it kind of fell on deaf ears,
You're not,
that, I can.
Carroll County solid waste is not gonna be involved if you.
Well, if they're gonna provide the central dumpster for that situation, then we would have to make sure they knew that this meter, this meter, this meter, and this meter were attached to the central dumpster.
But
That's
you go to
part of the
the,
file we give them.
you go with the VRB or whatever,
Then someone's
you're
gotta
gonna have them
make
going in and out.
changes to that over time.
My thought would be, when you get into these, there is no such thing then as inactive status.
No, not in the VRB.
To pay the rent year-round period.
Right, if it's a VRBO, short-term rental, sure, there should be a service attached to that property, one way or another.
But all part-time residents don't rent their house out when they're gone. Putnam's
Right.
right.
I would
Right.
think if you're managed by a property or by a company, that, you can't escape. We need control over that.
Yeah,
The owner is still ultimately responsible.
you're not gonna be able to control it.
Coming up with a way of managing it, that was my main concern, but like I said, it fell on deaf ears, because nobody wanted to hear that it would be difficult trying to keep up with 5 companies. Can you imagine if you had 5 companies, and each one of those 5 companies had VRBO customers? And, because I'm pretty darn sure that one of our visitors here today was using Republic for that very thing. So, of course, she said they'd go with Carroll County if they had to. But
I can
To-
tell you,
it's just
To address this, we have commercial waste defined, and it talks specifically to this case. Generated by a commercial or industrial establishment or a multiple residential unit business or combined units of businesses that streamline waste into consolidated containers. It's defined, that talks about that situation.
it's in the ordinance.
It's in the ordinance, and then before that, in the paragraph before, it says, any person refusing or failing to pay any charges, blah, 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 including both the failure to pay for residential solid and recycling, or the failure to pay for the collection of commercial waste, shall be guilty of a violation. So those people are commercial. If they put it in a dumpster, there's gonna be provided by Carroll County Solid Waste, if that's who we use, and they'll have to make sure they have a contract, get it used and dumped. So I think it's covered, except for where it's placed.
Except you don't know how many units the units are doing all the time.
it doesn't matter. Like where I had my condo right down here, it was four condos. We were all on the water meter. We had separate trash pickup. I was only here, once or twice every month. And those other people, if they rented mine wasn't for rent, but if they had a renter or a nightly rental, they dumped that trash overflow into my dumpster.
Yeah.
Every time I came back, it was full, every time, without fail.
Did you say you were on the same water meter or?
No, it's separate water meters. And I paid, you know, didn't use much water because we weren't there, but, you know, 4 or 5 days every month.
But because you had limited space to put the dumpster, it was central.
Well, they
to
got a
everybody,
dumpster
everyone
now,
could easily
they
get
have
to
a
it.
dumpster now because, I was the condo association president, and we decided to end that for that very reason. But we, you know, the condo association required that they get a dumpster. So I think we have all those, anything that's multi-units needs to be, dumpster needs to be required.
Okay, well, for tonight's meeting then, we'll make a note that it needs to be, provisions for that need to be added to the, needed to be added to the ordinance. And consequently, I think it would be appropriate to call for a vote tonight on the ordinance. So I'll entertain a motion to table this until the next meeting.
Can I bring up one more thing before we table it? Because it's pertinent to what Jerry just said. There is a discrepancy on between page 3, under the definition of residential unit. That's page 3. And then on page 5, where it talks about 1A, residential customers. So residential unit says a group of persons comprising not more than 4 families or units, not more than, meaning it's
Can be a
3
fourplex.
or less,
Not more than 4, it's
or it's
5
4 or
or
less.
4 or less.
A fourplex or
4
less, yeah.
right? So that's 4 or less. When you go to page 5, it says, multifamily housing units consisting of 4 or more. So
Should be 5.
should be 5 or more, I think.
In what paragraph is that?
That's
A.
1A on
1A.
page 5.
Residential customers. Right here, Dan.
I'm not looking.
Right here, Dan.
Page 5, right, Dan?
Page 5.
5.
Where did you
A.
get my?
A.
Then drop down to 1, and
Yeah.
then
The
small
last
a,
sentence, last
small a,
line on A.
Oh, okay, I got you.
do
I
5.
think it should be 5 or more.
Okay.
Oh,
So now you can table it.
Okay. Now I'll entertain a motion to table the ordinance until the next meeting.
So moved.
Jerry made a motion to table the ordinance until the next meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We need a roll call vote on that? Sure.
Sure.
Councilmember Dumas,
Aye.
Councilmember Elwood,
Aye.
Councilmember Graves,
Aye.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Pittman.
His name is still on.
One thought that I have had on this, I question, and this is an administrative matter, it's not pertaining to the city really, it depends on Carroll County Solid Waste. But is inactive status needed? Why? For the difference, when we, in Iowa, we have raw water in our farmhouse in Iowa. We are there 2-3 times a year, 10 days at a time. We're paying $63 per month for water, and there is no such thing as inactive or vacation.
Not using it.
You can pay to have them disconnected in the fall, but pay $63 a month all winter.
Just because you're on their books, so to speak.
Well, I
You have a
suppose
meter even if it's in it.
you have a meter, right?
I think one of the points that we don't wanna overlook is when we get into negotiating the rate structure and everything. Every one of those line items on that rate structure needs some definition. What are we talking about when we say, you know,
What does inactive mean?
inactive? What does inactive mean? Because if you're gonna be gone for a month, you're not inactive. If you're gonna be gone for 3 months, you're not gonna be inactive. Turn the clock back 4 years, grandma died, and now the house is standing empty, and it took us 5 years to sell it. That's pretty inactive. So I think that there needs to be a status of inactive, but it's not intended to allow somebody to, because even on the water meter thing, we made it, on the board when I was on the VOC, and I think you too, we made it a little bit more punitive to turn your water off and turn it back on again.
I was just gonna ask, do you know how much we charge for an off and an on? It's probably in the regulation, I'm sure.
Somewhere, Dan, I read in here that inactive was the bill that they get if they don't have a service and they have an active water meter.
Yeah.
So it starts taking a dollar value and assigned to that account. It's in here someplace, I just can't find it.
Okay.
So if they have an active water meter, they get charged something. So you're paying for nothing if you're not using it.
Yeah, I was just trying to
I understand.
Dan,
think about what
In-
is, what
in
we're
which
paying
case-
for Carroll County solid waste to be taking
$6 a month.
meters between active and inactive because people are gone for a month or
Right.
something.
Well, I think they definitely have to have water turned off before we.
And that, that low, well, they call it was it the low income / elderly or
I think
whatever,
that's a
right?
different line.
$10 a month,
That's a different line.
Yeah, I know that there's people in Holiday Island that kind of
How
live,
do you determine?
social security deposit to social security deposit, but $10 a month, if you can't afford $10 a month, maybe you're living in the wrong town.
Dan, just one other point. Are we gonna have a clear idea before we take this up at the next meeting of HICID's role in the billing? Because I kinda got nervous when Ken Brown's talked about them taking it up.
I've been talking to Danny about it. There were 2 things that I asked the district for as far as helping out with this. One was, if somebody doesn't pay for trash pickup, shut their water meter off. That's what other cities do, because they have control of the water department. And it's on the trash bill, the trash bill's on the water bill.
Is
If
that
you don't,
legal?
huh?
Is that legal?
The cities that,
The cities do it all the time.
but
You
usually
don't-
the cities provide the trash collection service.
I know, but it sounds kind of,
I'll bet every city in Carroll County, I bet Green Forest, Berryville, and Eureka Springs have it right on their water bill. And if they don't pay it, if they don't pay their water bill,
Well,
I got the impression that somebody is using Carroll County Waste to do the billing,
well, that's for
contract
the
says.
rural customers.
just rural.
They have a lot of rural customers.
Our contract says that they will be doing the billing.
Yeah.
That's what this contract says.
So HICID will just be providing the
A list of active water meters.
Yeah.
I said, they said no to shutting off the water because the water system is paid for through assessed benefits. And so you're basically, if you shut the water off because they didn't pay for some totally unrelated service, you're depriving them of a right they purchased, basically, that it's partly their water system service. So I thought that was a long shot anyway, so that isn't gonna happen. But I haven't heard any negative response to them providing us with a list of addresses that
Are they
have
going,
a water meter.
are they going to give monthly changes? Because
It almost has to be monthly.
ownership
fees.
chart, ownership changes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Don't know.
The ISID may ask us for some reimbursement for a certain amount of office support.
maybe,
May I ask a question?
we need to vote on the motion to table first. So,
I'll move that we table.
I thought we did that.
We did, we already did.
And we took a
we
vote.
voted, but
We
I
took a roll
didn't
call.
declare.
Oh,
Okay.
Right, so the motion
All
is,
in favor?
the motion is tabled, all right, Barbara?
Are there any privacy concerns on one organization turning it over to others? Because I know with the chamber, I've been asked many times for a membership list, and that would be an invasion of privacy if I did that. And I
think
know in promoting our bass tournaments and so forth, we went through the proper process to be able to include fishermen who leased the dock that is pretty much devoted to fishermen. We could not do that on our own, and I just didn't want to have to see the city
To me,
have privacy
yeah,
issues.
to me, the determining factor is if the city were to submit a FOIA request for that information from the district, would they have to provide it to us? And I think the answer is yes, it's a
Well,
public record.
You just said the key word to me, and that's FOIA, because I did not hear that before.
Now, that doesn't mean that they have to give it to us
Right.
unless we request it,
Right.
if we request it in a FOIA request, they have to give it to us.
Right.
I don't
We
think
ask
they
them-
have to give it to a private citizen, though. I think it's been shown that the data, water data is private and it's not subject to
Well,
FOIA.
most of those laws would prevent, people from buying those lists.
Probably so, yeah.
But the fact that,
You check with Justin, I bet he'll tell you that they cannot give out that data under FOIA.
I think they can, because I've gotten it.
and Barb, who told you that the chamber
was
could
told
not
that.
give out?
All we're asking for is the address and the meter. We're not asking for their name.
Maybe if all you need is the address and not the name, that would work. But when you associate a name and an address, that's not gonna
I
work.
don't think so, because unless things have changed, working for an insurance company, I've made the request of that as a public record and they've given it to me.
They won't give it to HIHOP.
Name and address.
Yeah, they won't give it to HIHOP. They've requested it
Well,
multiple
that's
times
different.
for
That's
local
not-
magnets and stuff.
Well, maybe it's not different.
Did-
And they won't, you're right, they won't give it to HIHOP, because
Did HIHA FOIA it, or did they just ask for
we
it?
just asked for it.
Yeah, if you just ask, they can say no. They can say no to us,
That's my concern.
I'm not going to,
Heck, you could get the name and address of everybody out there through Act Data Scout if you're willing to pay them.
I will ask the question whether it's legal or
I
not.
can't find it for the water meter on that.
But I believe it would be more appropriate for me to ask the district, to ask their lawyer if it's legal or not, and then we'll know.
But I think it should be perfectly legal to transfer it to the city. I mean, if we own the water district, we have access to it.
On the water district.
But yeah, ask Justin what the legal ramifications of that, keeping that information private versus public.
That's not.
Well, as soon as we have the list, then it can be FOIA from the city.
Oh.
If it's
All right, the next thing on the agenda is resolution 2022-003, rental for a sheriff's substation in the business park. I'll entertain a motion that we pass resolution 2022-003. Do I have a motion?
We don't have a contract yet.
That's my concern.
We're gonna have a contract.
Well, we've been doing this for about 6 months now.
If we don't strike while this iron is hot, then
Well, I'll
Make the motion.
make a motion to put it on the floor.
what?
It's not an ordinance. We have to,
We gotta have a discussion, we gotta get it on the floor.
I'll second
You make a motion to pass it, and then you have
The new and improved process is to make a motion to pass it, and then get a second, and then have discussion, and then have the vote.
I'm not gonna do that.
I make a motion, we pass the resolution 2022-003.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to pass resolution 2022-003, and, Ken made the motion, Lynn seconded it. Now, we'll read the resolution and then open it for discussion. A resolution authorizing rental of space for sheriff's substation for the city of Holiday Island. Whereas the city of Holiday Island wishes to maintain a substation for the use of the Carroll County Sheriff's Department deputies when patrolling Holiday Island, and whereas the Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District will share on a 50% basis the cost of providing that space, and whereas suitable space of approximately 800 square feet is available at 5 Forest Park Avenue, Unit D. Now be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Holiday Island, Arkansas, that the City Council for the City of Holiday Island authorizes the mayor to enter into a lease agreement with GKS Properties and the Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District for the lease of 5 Forest Park Avenue, Unit D, from GKS Properties for the sum of $300 per month in cash, payable on or before the first day of each month. The city and the district will be billed separately for each for $150. The rent includes utilities, passed and approved by the city council. I don't think that's what I call all the towns. For Holiday Island, Arkansas, on this date of 3/15/2022. I'll now open the floor for discussion.
When would this start?
March 14th. I just read it.
That's yesterday.
I don't see how we can do this before we get the damn contract.
Well, the lease agreement was written up yesterday.
So when would it start, Dan?
I guess the first of the month.
Lease agreement says 14th March. I just read it.
Well.
I think it's safe to assume that the first monthly payment is gonna be due, on or before the 1st of April. $150. If not, Carroll County will be evicted from, the sheriff's department will be evicted from the office they're occupying right now. And Aaron will have to start driving back and forth to Berryville every day to file his reports.
Is that because Carroll County JPs have decided not to continue the rental?
No, it's because the rent has been free forever.
Okay.
And now if they wanna stay there, the rent is gonna be $600. And the sheriff said he is not gonna pay $600. So, we found another location in the park, different building, different owner, for $300 a month, including utilities.
can I ask a question about the lease itself?
The lease was written by the city attorney for Pea Ridge, Arkansas.
Well, I I know, but
Well,
the
she's
only,
the
my only
property
question
owner.
is in paragraph 11, and I know it's, we're a co-leasee or lessee, and we're going to indemnify the lessor if we do not have a general liability policy, but HICID does. We're not an additional insured on their policy.
Which paragraph are you in?
11.
Where is it?
Paragraph 11, last page.
Huh?
Paragraph 11, last page.
No, I say, where's the building?
Where's the building?
So,
It's up.
5 Forest Park, it's where,
It's up on top
where
of the hill.
the Hot Box Pizza, it's the
Yes,
building that Hot Box Pizza is.
I don't
sitting in front of.
know that our municipal immunity would apply to this, because that's an assumed or an assumed liability, assuming the liability is somebody else. The municipal league would defend us, but I don't think they're gonna defend them.
Why would you hold harmless the person that owns the property if they fail to
That's
maintain it
common.
properly?
That's common.
It is?
Yeah.
Then
It's
what
not-
are you arguing about?
If we don't have a general, we're holding somebody harmless, but we don't have a policy to cover that.
Oh, that we wouldn't have anything to cover it.
What would we cover the lessor with if it happened? They have a general liability policy. This is an insured contract. An insured contract is covered under a general liability policy and would defend the lessor,
And our
but we don't have any.
doesn't cover us for
I wouldn't think
any
so.
property that we occupy? And
Us, but not
this is for
the
a-
lessor.
for
We'd be asking the municipal league to provide a defense
a
for
private
somebody
business,
other than a municipality,
a private business.
a private business. Now, they're actually, I mean, it may never come up because they'd be covered under HICID's general liability
So
policy.
we'd have to take out a liability policy, I guess.
For this,
Yes.
can't we
Just
just,
to talk to the league, I guess, to see.
is there not just a way
Insurance
to,
covers.
for HICID to assume that, but not us?
Good luck.
Well, because they've got coverage for it, and it's not anything, it's not costing them an additional, that's built into a general liability policy.
Yeah, all I have to do is name the party, right?
They don't
Yes.
even have to name it, they don't even have to name it, they just have to have a contract agreeing to do that, and then if you look under the exception for contractual liability and general liability policy, it says assumed under a SITAC agreement or insured contract. A lease is an insured contract by definition.
So by HICID signing on line 19, that doesn't tie them to that?
It does,
Okay,
but it also ties us, we're a co-lessee.
okay.
Yeah,
that's
if
all
I
I'm
sign
saying.
it too, then I'm tying the city
got
to
you.
the same.
So they're fine, because
What's
we're not.
They do have
Yeah.
their own entity.
While the lessee is at, and to purchase primary commercial general liability.
This is common language, I don't have any problem with the language itself, I'm just
Well, I
saying,
mean, it's saying.
technically, we're not protected, they are. Yeah.
We don't have a commercial.
Mr. Mayor can borrow it.
So could we fix this agreement by suggesting they change DC 1
Yeah,
to DC 2?
Exactly.
And then put DC 1 back in paragraph 1 so that we're
yes,
not in
that's
that
exactly
paragraph?
what I'm saying.
Okay,
This lessee 1 agrees to indemnify, lessee 2 does not. If that's gonna be permitted. It's not a big issue, I mean, it's not very likely to happen, but, okay.
lessee
Mark?
number 1 and number 2.
I strongly encourage you to talk to insurance people that do the general liability. If somebody comes in, with some type that ties to the city and you're not named as an additional insured, you could be liable. Will it happen? Who knows?
Well,
But we live in a litigious society, and if there's a cautious way to prevent it, I would urge you to consider that.
but a liability, you don't have to name an additional insured, they're not an additional insured.
My experience was you should. I'm just passing that on.
Well,
You do this-
not gonna argue with you, but that's what I did
No,
for
no, I'm
45
not.
years. That's why I know what the policy says,
Yeah,
because I was a general liability
There you go.
supervisor. And that's why I'm concerned about it.
okay.
Yeah, I think that's that's basically, that's a showstopper for us approving this tonight.
The only other way.
Well, I
to do
don't
it-
know, can we just, of course,
We can't change this contract.
no.
The leaseor wrote this contract. And,
Oh,
and he's the city attorney for the city of Pea Ridge, so, as well as being a landlord.
Do we
So I
care,
think he probably knows what he's doing.
do we care if Aaron has to drive back and forth to Berryville to file his report until we have a contract with him?
Well, my concern is losing the property.
Yeah,
May I ask
that's
another-
my issue is, I wanted to strike while the iron was hot.
Been vacant for
Well,
how many years?
I don't know.
May I ask a question?
Mhm.
In today's world with computers, and I don't have an understanding of how the sheriff's office works, so, but if he's driving simply to file a report, is there not some way that some arrangement can be made to send those through the cyber world?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any idea how the sheriff's office works, so I don't wanna sound light with that, but if that's the reason, can he not come up to the city office and use the computer or to Heisid's office?
It,
Or do it in his car? Don't they have
All-
computers
all I
in
can-
the car?
all I can tell you is, there's no internet in the office they're using right now. So they're doing it hard copy somehow. but-
can we just pass a resolution to pay HICID $150 a month for use of this, and then they sign the contract alone?
That's what I thought we had before I actually read this.
I mean, that would be, then I'm not worried at all.
There's probably a couple of solutions.
Well, I mean, we don't have a contract with them now, so
No, but we don't have to have a contract with them if we want to give HICID $150 for use of this, just on the resolution, not sign the contract.
To me, it was, you know, I agree, in today's world, you know, work from home and everything, it's crazy to think that they'd have to be on the road an hour a day just to file a report. However, to me, having a patrol car sitting out there in the parking lot right by the highway, all, you know, the time when people are driving through is worth $150 a month, just so that people know that we have police protection in Holiday Island. So, now we could go out and buy an old car and just paint sheriff's department on it, and park it there,
There you go.
but.
how much would that kind of insurance cost us?
The
We
resolution
can't buy
doesn't
insurance
speak,
just for that, we'd have to buy a general liability policy, which we don't need, because we're covered by the municipal league.
Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor,
it'd be
the
quite a bit.
resolution doesn't speak to signing a contract.
It'd be a lot more than this.
It just speaks to spending $150.
Yeah,
Right.
that's my point. Can we spend $150?
The resolution doesn't say it approves you to sign the contract.
Well, it says enter into a lease agreement.
I'd sign it, yeah.
Oh, all right, gotta fix that.
No, but what, I still, is it not?
Now,
is it not-
question, in the lease agreement, shouldn't the top left-hand corner say the county of Carroll rather than the county
Oh.
of Benton?
I can't imagine why. Picky, picky, picky. I still go back to my original point, can we not draft a resolution to agree to give HICID
Let me go back and, let me talk to Danny tomorrow morning and see if we can't rewrite the contract to where they lease the space and we reimburse them.
There you go.
That's a good one.
That's the way I started out thinking.
That's the way to do it. But can we pass a resolution tonight that we're in agreement that we'll give the CID $150 a month towards it? And then you don't have to come back to us at all, because if Danny's willing to sign the contract without us, we've already passed a resolution that in that case, we'll give him $150.
And the lease is he only requires him to be involved.
Right, exactly, not us.
So change the wording of the resolution, that we would reimburse
And we're in agreement to reimburse
HICID for half of the price.
half of the cost, yeah, and leave it at that. Dan doesn't have to sign anything, we don't have to worry about the liability, he can worry about it with travelers.
Just change the wording of that.
I'm just a suggestion, it's getting late, so I may not make any sense anymore.
So you're into an agreement with Holiday Island Suburban District?
Let's just table this. I mean, we can call a special meeting when I get this resolved.
Yeah, you basically have to find out the prices that will go on to that.
Right.
I mean, we don't even know, where does the actual contract between us and HICID stand?
It's still being fine tuned, however, I take full responsibility for it. Because, the last draft that came through had wording in it that we were going to require the county to purchase collision insurance for the vehicle that we're providing, and with the Suburban Improvement District and the city being listed as the payees, if the vehicle, if there's a claim, that the money would go to the city and the district, not to the county. And I thought that there's no way in the world that that's gonna fly, that we could just simply have a statement in there. And I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to, prevent the county from being able to, if they total the car, just come back to us and say, well, we totaled your car, now we need another one. That's a good idea. But, I said, just put a simple sentence in there that says that the county is responsible to repair any damage or replace the vehicle with one of the equivalent value. And so that was the first thing that changed. And then the issue came up as a result of certain social media postings.
You're gonna go blind.
The question arose as to whether or not, I wanted to confirm that the city, I wanted to confirm for sure that the sheriff's department can enforce city ordinances. And I got that ruling from Justin today. He said he just happened to be working on that same issue with another small town that he represents. And the answer was yes, and he quoted the Arkansas code that allows for the deputies to issue citations for city ordinance violations. However, the contract that as it was originally written stated very specifically that the deputies would do in Holiday Island what they would ordinarily do in the county, which is enforce county traffic and criminal state and local laws. So I asked Justin to add a sentence that says something to the effect that, and issue citations for violations of city ordinances that, where penalties could include a misdemeanor violation or something like that. Because it had to be tied to some sort of misdemeanor violation.
I thought that was in the original.
So, and that just came up this afternoon, so I would expect it to take, till next week this time probably to get the final draft back. And, so we can meet at the same time to probably approve this.
Well, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but is HICID, willing to do the same, call special meetings and get this done?
I don't think they need to have special meetings to sign the contract. It's,
Well, I'm talking about, I don't know how, I understand the urgency on getting the building, but again, this is stuff we're doing and trying to guess what's in the agreement with the sheriff's department and with us. We don't know.
well, you've seen 99% of the final contract. I distributed that, didn't
I read it someplace, and someplace in there,
We
it
went
said
through
that
it
they
at one
would
of the
enforce
meetings
city.
a while back.
A while back. But I guess, unless I've missed it, I haven't seen any evidence that HICID is,
Yeah, it was the meeting on the 15th of February.
has this HICID been discussing this?
Yes. Yeah, and more importantly, our lawyer and HICID's lawyer have been working directly together to work out the contract. So we've streamlined it from that standpoint, that we don't have to get something from Justin, approve it, give it to the district, have them send it to their lawyer, have him come up with his version of it, go back upstream again, and back and forth. So yes, it's frustrating that it's taking so long, but there's some pretty important things that we overlooked that, have come up as a result of waiting. So it's not all bad that we've,
No, I'm not trying to imply that, but I guess the thing that bothered me about this whole process is that we talked about this last fall. We kept waiting on HICID to meet with you, go meet with the sheriff, and then that never happened. And then all of a sudden, they have a contract of their own. It's just concerning to me.
since January, we've been working pretty close to, I don't know about January, but probably since January, we've been working pretty close on this. And, yes, it's taken some time, but, different things come up. We thought we had an agreement at one time, and then the sheriff said that the county doesn't have money to buy another car, so we had to go back and revisit
I
that.
understand all that, Dan, but, there's gonna be an election for a new sheriff.
Oh, we'll have it done before then.
Then we can get out of it.
All right.
And Dan, you also said that the rental was $600 a month. In paragraph 3, it says it's $800 a month.
Okay.
But it says you're gonna get credit.
It's 300 a month in cash and 500 in kind. He wants a statement
Oh, okay.
at the end of the year that says that he donated $500 a month
Okay.
of value.
Read that whole sentence.
Okay.
I thought
That's first
$10
text.
business.
In the second sentence, in consideration of $10, another good and valuable consideration, receipt which hereby is acknowledged.
Why do we have to have $10 to buy the agreement?
No,
You have to have
Because
consideration.
Pete Ridge.
You have to have an exchange of consideration for any contract.
Mine were always $1.
Well, a dollar.
That's okay.
you want me to negotiate?
No.
Fred, I don't know how many contracts that we make with people and there's never that sentence in them.
If you don't have consideration by both parties, there is no contract.
I thought the signature was a consideration.
No.
Not from my
Consideration is
law.
monetary.
But that was
Okay.
an I don't wanna say how many years ago.
All right. Interesting.
Why are we beating a horse that we tabled?
All right, the next thing on the agenda, which I hope we get to sign at least one thing for,
Do we need to vote on tabling that?
Ken said we have.
We have a motion.
yes,
I
we have
said
a
no.
motion.
Probably good.
Motion to table resolution 2022-003.
I'll move that we table resolution 2022-003.
Second.
Linda made a motion, Lynn seconded it. Since this is just a resolution, I'm gonna
Aye.
call for a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Folks, you're gonna get.
Resolution number 2022-004, a resolution authorizing the city of Holiday Island to apply for a state aid city street grant program or street program grant. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
And I'll
Jerry made a
second it.
motion, Pat seconded it.
We all were.
Roll call vote?
Just a minute.
No, we don't.
Since this wasn't on the agenda, that.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it was, it just wasn't under.
I know, it wasn't on the one I had. So the motion was by Jerry.
Jerry,
Pat.
seconded by Pat.
Roll call vote. Councilmember
And I
Dumas.
have a
Aye.
question before a roll call
Too late.
vote. No,
It's too late.
I asked you when I first saw this, you say Woodsdale, 107,184 feet. There's 5,280 feet in a mile. That means that damn road's 20 miles long, there ain't no shitting way that.
I'm sorry, I pulled this from an old document.
I'd already pointed that out.
I pointed it out too, and he didn't change it.
All right, I have just corrected that.
Okay.
But first, we need to vote, we need to,
Move to approve.
move to approve.
It's been done.
Okay, so now we'll read the resolution. Resolution number 2022-004. A resolution authorizing the city of Holiday Island to apply for a state aid city street program grant. Whereas the city of Holiday Island qualifies to participate in the Arkansas State Aid for Streets program, and whereas the application and award of these grant funds require no financial commitment from the city, and whereas receiving these funds would substantially boost the Holiday Island Street Resurfacing Program. Now be resolved by the City Council of Holiday Island that the mayor is authorized to apply for a grant to resurface Woodsdale Drive and State Line Drive from the intersection of Holiday Island Drive and the intersection with Woodsdale Drive. Passed and approved by the City Council of Holiday Island, Arkansas, on this date of 3/15/2022.
3:15.
Do we have any discussion other than Ken nitpicking me on a decimal point error?
Well, 20 miles of road is a big road.
I said, we can't afford that.
Matter of whether the state can.
Okay.
Is there any discussion? And I'll call for a vote.
Okay, roll call.
Yep.
Councilmember Dumas.
Aye.
Councilmember Elwood.
Aye.
Councilmember Graves.
Aye.
Councilmember Mills.
Aye.
Councilmember Pittman. All in favor, Your Honor.
All right, the resolution passes with 3 corrections. Correcting town to city, correcting the date, and correcting the length of Woodsdale Drive. All right, next thing on the agenda is public comments. Barb?
She'd had all she can stand.
If you do, it's only a minute and a half at this point.
Well, no, but, I thank you for whatever you're doing, because, I appreciate the number of hours that are spent. You're not gonna get everybody to like, you're gonna get
Yeah.
likes and dislikes, and,
I knew tonight was gonna be a late one, so.
well,
All right, council member comments?
I've got a short one.
Okay.
We talked about social media earlier. I would like to throw out the fact, or the idea that we could limit public comment on informational posts and what the agenda is. I mean, we posted it on Holiday Island, Arkansas, and, you know, all sorts of misinformation and comments. I had a sheriff's county say that he wouldn't, it doesn't matter what the city does, he's not going to enforce the contract.
So you're wanting to limit what?
Comments on social media,
How can we do that?
turn them off.
When you post on an account, on those social medias, you can turn off comments.
But who's doing the posting?
Linda and I do,
Oh, okay.
announcing our meetings.
Oh, okay.
And there's
That's
nothing
the-
wrong with that. I mean, the more we get the agenda out there, it's fine.
Right.
But to give them a platform, and then there's some sites that, I mean, I don't think they run our stuff like the original Holiday Island neighbors, and, I mean, I just think that we post it on our website, we post it on the HISA newsletter, we post it on 4 or 5 social media platforms. That gives people the agenda, the opportunity to come to this meeting or watch it on Zoom and not tee it up for 150 comments.
I don't have a problem with that.
Well, I'm to the point where I was gonna suggest we don't post on social media, period.
Well, I mean, if we want to.
Period. Not on Nextdoor, not on any Facebook, nowhere. Because like you said, we put it on the HISA newsletter and we get it on our website.
And we post it on 5 locations around the.
Yeah, but posting on the website doesn't draw people's attention to it being there.
Right.
I have no problem with doing it on social media, but I strongly urge that we limit comments.
I lean more in favor of getting as much information out there in public as we can, getting it in front of as many eyes as we can. So they know that we're for the people, we're interested in their thoughts, and
And the
we'd
proper.
like them to come to our meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah, the proper forum is just like these people came tonight, to come to the meeting. Or watch it on Zoom, or contact us ahead of time. But I mean, we're literally teeing it up for, you know, people that.
For a 500-yard drive.
So are we okay with just turning off comments?
If everyone agrees that's what they want, it's okay with me. I'm not particularly in favor of it, but if the majority is in favor, that's all we'll do.
Well, I don't read them, so it doesn't make me.
I think it makes me more knowledgeable about what's going on with people out there. In fact, I could go there and read, on one side, I could read 8 comments, on another side, I could read 26 comments, and it gave me a feeling of what some of the
Except in
common
some of
threads
those
were.
sites, they allow everything. Sometimes the administrator, his or her preferences, it's not,
Well, I'm not saying it's perfect,
well, it's very far from it.
but just because somebody posts something negative doesn't make it bad. Because I'd
Except-
like to hear the negatives, I'd like,
Well,
they
it's
brought
not
out
just
some really
negative.
good points tonight.
Huh?
They brought out some very good points tonight that
That's
we need
right.
to talk about.
But I didn't recognize any of those people as the ones that posted on.
There were 4 or 5 people that I know posted on social media on our mayor's message post.
I understand, but they were against it, that's their right. And they came and exercised the way to do it. But there were, for every one of those, there were 10 that put out misinformation, used it to promote a campaign.
Well, I agree. I think that speaks more about him than any comment he made about us or what we were doing. It certainly changed mine. Well, it didn't necessarily change my opinion, but I don't know. I guess I would always err on the value of more input.
But
wherever.
it doesn't prevent them from starting.
I never answer any of those things.
Well, that's the other thing. If we're gonna allow it, somebody ought to,
I never read them.
I don't, I depend on.
that's the
other people
thing.
to.
Y'all may not read them, but I'm the only one that hadn't been kicked off of all of them.
I've been kicked off every.
Yeah, I know, but
And I don't even.
I mean, the misinformation is just out of control.
Yeah,
Well, it's the misinformation that gets spread all over.
That's right.
Well,
and
And
if you don't rebut it, then that's what people come to believe. But if you do rebut it, then you just get,
you're down.
you know, then you've just, you know, jumped in the ring, you know, mud wrestling with everybody. And I've just decided not to do that. So,
If they don't put it on our posts, I will tell you, they will write their own posts citing what we put out there and make their own comment on their own post, which will create another string of posts.
That's better than being on ours.
I mean,
So,
anyway, I was gonna make this brief, but I wanted to say that.
It's easy to turn off
I've
comment on
never done
Facebook.
it, at first I heard you could do it, when you told me no,
I don't know how to turn it off.
I don't either. Do you think there's a thing when you do a post that you can turn it off?
Well, I will explore that, but I'm pretty sure there is.
I know we can on Nextdoor, but I didn't know we could do that on Facebook. The private sites, administrators can delete stuff, but I don't know, and they can, I don't know if they can or not, I don't know.
Well, they all say that, you know, that this, you can't, politic on it. But the one that got me was that sheriff's candidate, promising a chicken in every pot, and, just, that galls me. And, you know, somebody should restrict it.
That was pretty outrageous when he said he wasn't gonna enforce
That's
the ordinance if we.
He also said that if he's elected sheriff, that he'll provide 2 deputies for Holiday Island at no cost. He posted that.
Well, that'll save us a lot of money.
He posted that the day he filed.
Yeah, that's right.
he's also gonna have to convince the county board of that. Motion to adjourn, well, schedule, first of all, I'm gonna acknowledge that I skipped over the discussion on the updates to the planning commission, to the zoning ordinance. We'll catch that at some future meeting. And, commission and, meeting scheduling.
April 19th is the next one, isn't it? I haven't had it before you got me distracted, Jerry.
Well,
I don't know.
Can I have a question?
About 8 o'clock.
I'm pretty sure I'll be scheduling a special meeting before that to get some of this stuff taken care of.
Hello?
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Ken made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Lynn seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Pat, what the heck did you oppose that for?
I did not